Hello and welcome to episode 36 of Gamers of the Lost Spark podcast. I'm your host Anthony Chesson, and joining me this week, it's the other spark on the pod. It's the man who completes 3 games before breakfast and still has time for a quick game of Spelunky. It's Mr. Darren Whittam.
Hello, how are you? Good morrow, sir.
Yeah, I'm not too bad. And pulling up the extra chair on this week's podcast, it's the newly pirated, it's the black sheep Thomas, it's Mr. James Thomas. Hello.
Hello, how are we doing?
Not too bad, sir, not too bad. How are you?
Yes, very good. As mentioned in our pre-show chat, I'm surrounded by boxes as we're attempting a move, so I'm hoping the acoustics in the office today are particularly accessible to the listeners.
So it's kind of like you're living in like a Minecraft room at the moment then, really.
It's like a very first creation of just shamble of boxes and cubes around me, but hopefully it'll be crafted into something lovely in the coming weeks.
Fantastic. So how's your week been, guys?
James, as our guest, please enlighten us about your week.
It's been good. It started with you guys tweeting me last week about which turtle I wanted to be. I was very upset to see that Donatello had already been taken, because that would have been my choice. I think Anthony chose wisely. Apart from that, and apart from packing a load of things, it's been mainly getting my mind wrapped around the Witness, to be honest. Much to the frustration of my wife, because, I should be packing. I'm there just, instead of Tetrising things into boxes, I'm there trying to Tetris things on screen. Because it has just absorbed every waking gaming moment I have had since it came out. I've just found it so addictive. Your brain keeps racing while you're away from the telly, thinking, oh, could it be this? Because so rarely have I walked away from that game on a high, on a succeeding a puzzle. I've usually put down the controller going, I need 10 minutes away from this to try and think about it. It's just been all absorbing. For those who don't know what The Witness is, it's a follow-up, I guess. It's a very abstract follow-up from a platform puzzler called Braid from a few years back. And The Witness puts you in this beautiful, colourful island where you roam around just solving 2D puzzles. And when I first heard about it, and I don't know if you two thought the same, when I first heard about it, I thought, why on earth have you got a 3D island with lots of 2D puzzles? It seems a bit of a waste. Why can't you just go through a menu like Professor Layton or things like that? But I was so impressed about how they folded in the space, the colours, the shapes, the trees, the surroundings. Everything plays into that puzzle solving really, really tightly, really seamlessly.
Wow, yeah, high praise.
And you're right, the island just looks stunning, doesn't it? You do just want to, you're taking constant screenshots of the puzzles anyway to just try and help solve those puzzles. But the island is just, I think when I first fired up the game, I just took a whole load of shares and I was just posting them on Twitter because it's just stunning. It's such a great environment.
Yeah, it's filled up my PlayStation snapshot folder. I think half with those, look at this lovely vista, and half with, I'm going to catalogue that puzzle for later. So it's this weird mix between pleasure and pain as I go back through it all.
Wow, so do you sort of take a picture so that you can just stare at the still and work the puzzle out? Is that why you do it? Because I haven't played it.
Effectively, yeah. I think I've basically been running this with a notepad by the side of me. And just trying to collect all the different pieces of data information or graphs and things. Because it's not... I don't want to say too much, because it'll obviously give away a lot of the actual puzzles. But the main concept is that pretty much all the puzzles are a grid. And you have to get your line from one side of the grid to the other. Except it tries to layer rules on top of it. There could be... Again, I don't want to spoil it, but there are certain rules that you have to learn, that you have to try and interpret from the examples that it gives you, because there are no tutorials at all. It starts with a very simple connect A to B, and then just starts throwing in, well, this shape might mean this, or these shapes might mean that, and you go around the island's 600-odd puzzles, discovering and building up your knowledge. So my notes look like a madman has been at my desk. I've just got scrawlings of hexagons and grids and Tetris shapes. There's about 25 different Tetris shapes I've got cut up upstairs, and I was there just feverishly trying to fit them together the other day on a grid, going, it can't work!
Like a mad scientist.
Yeah.
If anyone came out your house, I think it was a serial killer or something.
Yes,
it's just
yeah.
But I had a game with Nicola and I, because because Nicola was kind of instantly she likes puzzles, she likes Mensa puzzles, and this is just kind of right there, if you like that kind of thing. And so she was sitting there, she was doing something else, and she'd noticed what I was playing, and she was instantly just kind of drawn into it. And then so that night was kind of me sitting on the sofa, Nicola up at the big TV going, no, go this way, and just solving the problems a lot quicker than I could, which was really annoying. But and it was just, no, you need to go here, or you need to go here. And it was just, it's a great multiplayer, it's a great kind of couch co-op game, because you really can just kind of, any help that you can have is a must with this game. But it was just really interesting how we were both, and also kind of coming at the problem from a different way. For me, I was very much going, I think it's that, so I'm going to give it a try. Where Nicola was like, I want to make sure that I have the right solution before we start the solution. So that was it was really kind of insightful into your own personality as well.
And I think that's the great thing about how they've set up the puzzles. As I say, there aren't any direct tutorials, but the whole island's split into areas, and each area is almost based around a specific type of puzzle. And there's usually an introductory set of 5 puzzles to walk you through the basics. And then on one occasion, I had got to the end of those 5 puzzles, and I still really wasn't sure what it was trying to tell me. I think that it was the one I was tweeting to you the other night, Anthony, about the caltrop is the best way to describe it. So in the end, it's like going, no, I've got to go back to the beginning, and although I've solved these, I want to get them wrong to try and drill home just what this means. And it's fascinating that I've been playing a lot of NES games recently as well, and so going back and finding out those don't have tutorials either. You have to brute force your way through to find out what half of them do. But here it does it so elegantly. Again, just throws away the fact there's no hand holding, there's no even press X to do this, Y to do that. You just have to sit there and let your brain tell you what the rules of the world are.
Yeah. It's fantastic. It's such a great game, and you're right. I did, and it's quite interesting because I've got quite a few people that are playing it, and it's quite interesting how I think it's just open to go whichever way you want, isn't it? And I think you're probably going clockwise around the island. I think I'm going the other way, and I think we're kind of joining up now by judging by our tweets. But I've still got a lot more to go. I think you've unlocked a lot more than I have. But it's just such a fantastic game. And you're right. I think we were saying last week that the essential for this is a pad and a pencil. Some graph paper and a pencil. And you need it because you do need to kind of sketch those out. And some of the puzzles are. It makes you feel incredibly stupid, but it also makes you feel incredibly smart at the same time. I think it's a ratio of about kind of 80-20, but it really does kind of... they're just fantastic. And when you find that solution, there was, again, kind of no spoilers, but there was a ruin that I was looking around, and I was looking around for ages, and I just couldn't figure out how to start this first puzzle. And then as I went to, I was like, stop this, I'm going somewhere else. And as I started to walk away, I figured out the solution to the first puzzle, and then after you figure that out, as you were saying, James, once you figure that out, it is just an evolution of that solution, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's such a great game, and works really well on Vita for remote play as well, because as you say, there's hardly any controls. It's just kind of looking around and X, and it just works really well on the Vita. Yeah,
there's been a couple of times Ali's been playing Tomb Raider, and then I've just got the Vita out and played Witness while she's doing that, and it's a nice sort of side-by-side thing. And I hope we're selling this, Darren, because it's really one of these games that if you say too much, you will spoil it. Almost like Life is Strange over Christmas. If we tell you why this thing is so great, we will probably spoil it for you.
Yeah, it does sound like I love Braid. As I said before, I'll say it again. I love Braid, and I played that, finished it. A lot of what you described there makes me hark back to the playing Braid, because it had no hand holding again, and it had a set of rules in place, and it layered those rules on top of each other as you played through the game, and you just had to discover them for yourself, and you did feel so smart. I remember there was a puzzle in Braid, I could not work it out, and I never look at on the internet, I never cheat, because it's sort of against the gaming code that I made up for myself, and so I was just sat there, and I think Claire was ironing or something, and I was playing Braid, and I was just at this bit. It was you had to jump over a pit. I think it was called the pit, this level, and I was just sat there cross-legged in front of the screen, and I just kept doing it, and I couldn't do it, and I was like, right, and I remember putting the control down and staring at the screen, pondering for, it was a long time. Claire was busy just doing her thing, and she was completely bored of what I was doing, and she's like, turn it off, play something else. I was like, no. And I just stared at it for ages, and then all of a sudden it was like, bang, I think I understand what to do. And it worked. And all the things I'd tried before were all just sort of guesswork, but when you realise what's going to work, don't you?
It's a dawning moment, isn't it? Just like a...
Yeah, a bit like opening the gates of Mario when they say speak friend and enter sort of thing.
That experience sounds like my experience at the moment with a boy and his blob. There are some times when I just look and I'm like, the blob's bouncing up and down. I'm like, what do you want from me? What do I need to do?
That's it.
If only you could speak.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's such a great experience, that. So you are selling it to me with that. And as you were giving me your layers of enjoyment there, I was thinking it's sort of sucking me in a bit. And it sounds like, the Island of the Witness has got its own language. The language is the puzzles, and your quest is almost to learn the language of the island. That's how it strikes me from not playing it.
That's exactly it. That is exactly it. Each area, especially as you go into it, you start having to... I think it conditions you for it as well. So when you enter a new area, you are almost hyper-aware of everything around you. You're either looking or listening or just trying to pay attention to the things that are different that could give you a clue for it. But the last thing that... the last game that reminded me of something like this was Fez. I think Fez was the last time I got so completely drawn in with notebooks and screenshots and almost conspiracy theory style maps and bits and pieces of how it all fitted together. I would say if you liked Fez, I think you should totally throw yourself in at The Witness.
Yeah, I did love Fez. I did really like Fez. Do you find out why it's called The Witness? Has it got any correlation? Or is it a spoiler? Have you guys got any closer to finding that out? Do you think there is something in there about it?
I think I'm approaching the end game, and I've found a few secrets along the way, and so I'm getting a hint as to why it's that way. But I don't really want to say or speculate.
No. Right.
So I think it's becoming apparent that there is something more than just a puzzle game behind it.
Okay, and you think that's going to tie in with the title then?
I don't know. As much as I like some of his games, I occasionally wonder if he speaks to a higher power that I'll just appreciate the lower stuff because I'm not quite that clever. So
yeah, I remember when I finished Braid, I started reading up about it to see what I'd missed and things like that. And there's all these wild conspiracies and people's imaginings about what the game was about. For such a sort of pretty game. Yeah. There's loads of theories that it was about like the guy, I forget who the guy was that sort of invented the atom bomb, but it was sort of based on like the guy in the game had invented a nuclear bomb or something, and the whole game was his penance for creating that. He shut down physically, and this was him. It trapped in his mind, and it was a penance to pay for creating the bomb. And they sort of made loads of references to things that happened in the game to back that up, and I was just like, whoa, this is so deep. I was just playing a 2D puzzle game. So it does sound tempting, and I've cleared my decks quite a bit, so I wasn't up for getting it a few weeks ago because I just had too much on, but I may have a window, so I may be joining you guys.
Because I heard a few things pre-release that it was a 50, 80-hour game, and that almost put me off. But I feel I'm probably only about 12 hours into it, I think. Maybe a bit more. But you can definitely get your enjoyment from it and put it down. I don't feel like I will have to put 80 hours in to get everything from it.
Yeah, I think there's like a lot of there's core puzzles from what I believe, and then there's sort of like optional puzzles, isn't there? So
yes,
you can plough through the game.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'd read the reviews that I read said most of them were on the side of about 20 hours, saying that they'd put into it, but that probably wasn't just to whiz through. That was to give a full broad review of the game. But they said if you carried on, there's puzzles galore if you're enjoying it.
Although I did see there was a news story the other day, I think it was just yesterday, about a speed run. Someone's completed The Witness in about 26 minutes.
Oh,
wow.
Which I'm sure when you know what you're doing, you can just target those key puzzles, but my goodness, you must be booking it some there.
Yes.
Yeah.
You must have to have all of those puzzles, just the solution out in front of you. That is a real
epic amount of graph paper.
That is,
yeah. Something that'd be great to watch once you've completed it yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my advice to you, Darren, I think if you're going to jump in, which I really think you should, I think you should make sure that you have some time at the start, really kind of that first kind of crucial 3 hours to jump into the game, because I think it's one of those games where if you just play for an hour and then came away and then go, you really need to give it some time at the start. And I think that's kind of one of the enjoyment I had it when I kind of first sat down and had a really nice kind of like 2.5, 3 hour game of it. I was just so, that's when I got to the crazy point that James was at as well, where you were just kind of thinking about it all the time.
The certifiable point.
Yes, so I think that is it's just such a fantastic game.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sure I will enjoy it. So Anthony, what have you been up to this week?
Pretty much that, really.
Wow.
It's quite interesting because I've been quite busy. I kind of went up to my dad's at the weekend, so I've been quite busy. But when I haven't been travelling around, I've either been playing The Witness or the Division beta, which so I guess this is kind of almost kind of what we've been playing and also what we've been doing.
It sounds like you two are ganging up on me to get The Witness, if you ask me.
Well,
that's what it feels like. Absolutely. I'm feeling pressured. I feel like I'm in the dock.
Yeah.
What are your reasons for not getting The Witness, Darren? I don't know.
Prepare for the strong sell on the Division as well any second now.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, all right.
We're going to rope-a-dope you in a minute.
Strong army.
So what have you been up to, Daz? Then we'll get to the Division beta. What have you been up to this week?
What have I been up to? I've been a bit under the weather this week, which sort of, I don't know if it was noticeable, but I was sort of flagging in the last podcast. That's when the illness was descending upon me. So pretty much I was dead up till Sunday, and then I kind of, it was as if I was born again. It was like I came out of a chrysalis to a whole bright world. It was like, oh wow, there is life after illness. It was only the flu, but the man flu. It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible
Debilitating.
thing. Debilitating is right. I couldn't do anything. So yeah, I was ill. But what I did do, I had a fury when I was ill because my PS4 that I thought I'd fixed from the eject issue, I still got it, and I was just sat there. I think I'd staggered downstairs at like 6 a.m. on Sunday, and I was just sitting there, shivering, looking like someone out of Train Spotting, and all of a sudden I hear beep, beep, beep from the PS4, and then as a disc came out of its mouth, and I was like, no! you piece of rubbish. And I was like, this is the last straw. So I grabbed the iPad and started looking what I hadn't done to fix it. Because I'd done cleaning the front, cleaning the eject button with sort of like good cleaner. I'd removed the foot from the front because that sits underneath the eject button. And the theory is that the heat of the PS4 expands the rubber foot and that triggers it, but I'd removed that already. I'd taken the hard drive cover off and twisted. There's a screw that you can twist that's linked to the eject button, so you can eject a game if a disc gets stuck, and you can tighten that, and that's supposed to fix it as well. I tried all those things, and I thought it was fixed, and it spat a disc out again, and I was just so angry because it's done it when I've been in the middle of a game. When I was playing Bloodborne, it did it when I was on a damn boss, and it's just out of order. So it's just so frustrating. Or if you're on a multiplayer game, imagine just three are playing Battlefront and I just get taken to the menu screen. I mean, you could say I just buy digital, but it's a design fault by Sony, and they've not admitted it in public, but they've kind of admitted it in a way because the new model PS4s have got a mechanical button now for eject rather than a touch button. I was reading. So anyway, I stripped it down. Had to take all the little warranty stickers off and make a mess of my PS4 to get to the screws to open it up, because you can put some electric tape over a sensor, and then you just basically put the eject out of action completely. So I decided to do that because you can still eject the discs with the pad. The control from the menu screen. You just go to the disc and you can eject it from there. So because you can do that, you can disable your disc eject on the hardware, and it's okay. So I was like, right, I'll do that. But when I revealed the sensor, I realised I didn't have any electric tape. And I was like, oh. And I didn't really know what electrical tape was anyway.
It's just cheaper duct tape, isn't it?
Well, I didn't know. And I'm not that handy. Like, my dad would have known straight away. But I'm not that handy. And I didn't want to risk putting any old tape in there in case for some reason it melted and made the motherboard worse or something.
Made it worse.
So I thought, what am I going to do? And I was just too ill to research anymore. So what I did was I'd actually read another theory, which was taking out the eject button. You know, on the eject on the PS4, it's like a black line, and that's the actual button. So I got a screwdriver, and you can just poke that out, and you don't have to disassemble your PS4 to do this.
What?
You can just take out the rubber foot from the bottom, and then with a long, thin screwdriver, you can poke and dislodge the eject button, the black line that you press to eject discs. And it pops out. It doesn't break it. It pops out, and you can take it out, and you can put it back in if you want. So I was at my wit's end, so I took it out, and it just came out, and I put the PS4 back together and put it on the shelf, and it's fine. It's cured.
So it worked after all of that?
Yeah, I've stripped down a few machines in my time. And it's fine now. I mean, obviously, the eject button doesn't work, but I could always put that button back if I wanted to sell it. But
I could never get those things to work properly as it was anyway. I always just flounder underneath my telly, because I've got a black audio TV setup underneath the telly, and it's like this black PlayStation with these very tiny buttons and the very tiny logos. It's just... I've only ever used the button on the key on the actual joypad itself, because I've thought those buttons are awful.
Yeah, they are awful, and they're even worse when they start just operating on their own. I mean, some days it would eject the disc and it'd just like be going beep 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 beep, and then the disc drive was like doing the eject sound as if it was running through that process over and over again. And yeah, it's really bad. And when I was reading on the net, it's quite widespread. Loads of people have had it. Sony will replace your PS4 if you're under warranty, but mine didn't start happening until like a month after, like 13 months in. So I couldn't do that. And to be honest, they may have replaced it for free, if as a goodwill thing, if I'd have got in touch with them. But I didn't really want to be without my PS4 for weeks.
Yeah.
So I just bit the bullet. It wasn't under warranty anyway. I've taken off the eject button and it's fine now. I might even do a how-to on doing it, because it's by far it's not the simplest, but it's one of the less complex ways of doing it, and it guarantees to fix it, because it basically takes the problem. It takes the problem away, and you don't need the eject button anyway. So if anyone's got a first-gen PS4 and having that problem, then you can just look on the internet for removing the eject button, and you'll see it there. It's dead easy to do. You just take out a rubber foot, which just pulls out easily. It's not glued. Insert the screwdriver, push, that's the scary bit, because you've got to push quite hard. Dislodge the thing, pull it out, you're done. And that's it, you can be done straight away. So I did that.
Did they say that was attributed to heat? That it causes that eject button to kind of...
I don't think there's been no sort of 100% this is the cause. There's been no admission of what the cause is. Sony haven't admitted that it's a design fault, but they have, on the PlayStation blog, they have got a workaround for if you've got that issue, but without saying that it's a problem.
Because it's quite interesting, because my PlayStation 4 sits in a cupboard with two Xbox Ones, a Wii U, my AV, my amp and Blu-ray players and Sky and all of that, and it just kind of sits there. The Xbox is, if Nicola and I both have our Xboxes on at the same time, they're happy as Larry to be in that cupboard. But a prolonged game of anything on the PS4, especially a disc-based game, really gets the PS4 kind of whirring, and as if it's kind of trying to cool down. So which is really interesting, because a couple of times I've kind of had my sound cancelling headphones on, and Nicola's kind of gestured to me, and as much as say, it sounds like your PlayStation 4's about to die, and then I take them off and you can hear this horrible fan going.
I don't think it's not just disc though, because I've had that with The Witness this week, and it was I downloaded it as obviously you can, and it was sound like it was about to take off out the back of it.
Yeah, Rocket League did it too. Do you remember that? It was severe with Rocket League, that they had to do a patch to sort of make the PlayStation's fans not spin as much.
Oh yeah, I remember you saying about that on the podcast, that it was kind of overheating, wasn't it? It was overheating PS4s. And it's funny because a lot of people bash the Xbox One for having that external power unit, but like I say, I've got two Xbox Ones sitting there going on. One's disc, one's digital, and it never has any problems at all. I've never had that kind of sound from a fan, so it's really interesting.
Yeah, I was so frustrated with this problem, but now it's sorted, and I'm glad. I'm just glad it's sorted, and it's better for me to remove the eject button than send off the PS4, even if it was in warranty. So that's probably not the highlight, but the most interesting thing, I suppose, that I did this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what have you been playing on your newly furbed PS4?
Oh, wow. Well, I played a bit of Star Wars Battlefront,
Right.
which I was enjoying. It clicked with me. I was playing it, and I was really enjoying myself, and I was like, yes, it's brilliant. It's clicked. I'm really enjoying. Not that I wasn't enjoying it before, but I was just like getting into the zone with it. So I was enjoying it, and all I was playing was a Turning Point on Jakku, and I was just playing that and loving it. And so I was having good fun with that. Leveled up a few times, changed my gun, and yeah, I just like it. It's a shame because
superb.
I still don't like really the amount of content they released the game with. I'm not really enthralled with the business pattern, the system they've got with the way they've monetized it, going down the road with the season pass and everything. But I can't knock it. It's a great game. So as much as I'd like to sort of like go, EA boo, it's a beautifully crafted game, and I really love it, and I've been having some great fun. And I think I mentioned last week that I was playing a bit of Fighter Squadron as well, and it's so diverse to the infantry FPS aspect of the game that it does feel like good value in a way. And so I've been enjoying that. I've also been playing with some indie darlings this last week. Two great games. One of them is Pony Island. I've been playing. Have you guys heard of Pony Island?
I've heard it's not what I should expect from the title, and that's about it.
Yeah, and in fairness, that's all you should probably know before going into it. It's another one of those that the more you know, the less enjoyable.
It's the vaguest Lost Spark podcast ever this week.
It is.
We
It's
talk
just
around
an
as many games as possible.
Yeah. It's just an excuse so we don't have to actually talk about the games themselves. It's like, if you knew about it, it's not worth playing.
At some point, we're going to break and just go full spoiler on something. I mean, the good thing is we can talk about the Division beta with some depth and some meat on the bones.
Yeah, but the premise of Pony Island, and I've really enjoyed it. I finished it today. There's a few hours of gameplay in there. It's only like, I think when I got it, it was, well, I got review code from this one, so I just wanted to point that out. I got a review code there, so just making that point to everybody. But it's only like $2.99 or $3.99 on Steam. It'll run on pretty much any PC because it runs on my laptop, and my laptop's rubbish. It's like years old, and it's not great. It's not by no means a gaming PC. But the premise of it is that you find a dusty old arcade machine in an arcade. I think it's based in about the early 90s. Excuse me. And it's called Pony Island. And it looks all sweet and innocent, but it holds a dark secret that it is possessed, and it will try to trap your soul. And that's probably all I'm going to say.
That's not what I'm getting from Pony Island. I know. Imagine like kind of rainbows and unicorns.
It totally parodies Endless Runners, sort of those rainbow unicorn games. And it's just really good. It breaks the fourth wall. It brings you into its world, and it brings you in as if you've entered the game itself.
So does it change as it goes along? Is it one of these that starts out as one thing, you think it's going to be just an endless runner, then it starts throwing in curveballs?
It's less subtle than that, because even you approach the arcade, and from the very menu screen it starts tinkering with you, messing with your head, inviting you to try and change or hack the system right from the start.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of inviting you to try and tweak it or break it or hack it or get it to do what you want to do from the start. So it becomes clear very quickly that there's more to it than meets the eye. And then it just sort of goes through layers of the story within it. It's really cool. It's a great game.
So when you say hack it, is it a case of there's like the mini games that you find in, say, Fallout, where you just have to connect wires or choose words and bits and pieces like that? Or is it actual, here's this massive puzzle and then you twiddle it around until something works?
Yeah, it's not like the Fallout mini games sort of thing. It does have some mini puzzles in there, and that is the hacking, I suppose. Yeah, but they're sort of quite clever. So they take a little bit of thought. And there's one or two different types in there that are quite fun. It doesn't really tell you what to do at all, again, so you're just on your own, you have to work it out. And as you solve the puzzles and hack the system, you get further into the root of the game, and you peel off the layers of rainbow, and you get to what's really going on in there.
Okay.
And then when you've discovered that, it'll turn that on its head as well. It's pretty good. It's very clever. As I say, I sort of said more than I wanted to just with that, really. But yeah, it's a possessed arcade, and it's sort of played with my little fantasy I've got about leaving a game and the character's sort of stuck in there. And it's like, oh dear, all the characters on your memory card, they're just stuck in a game forever until you put it on, and unless you completed the game, they're sort of stuck in limbo. And I've sort of thought of that a few times, and it sort of appeals to that sort of side of weird thought that I have. It's really cool. It's a great game. You can probably do it in a couple of hours, 2 to 3 hours.
Okay.
But it's a great diversion. It's a great bit of fun. It's really good. And the other game that I played was Downwell, which is great. It's another indie game. Again, like Pony Island, they're both sort of like pixel graphics, old school,
right,
sort of blocky graphics. Downwell is more sort of detailed in the graphical department, so it's a bit more like the Spectrum game in its detail. Sort of like a Sabre Wolf, if you like, but it's not an isometric game. You'll have to excuse me, keep coughing, sorry about that. So in Downwell, it's about a young boy who falls down a well. But luckily, he's equipped with gun boots. So he's alright, you see. He's alright.
You sure you didn't play this game while you were like in your sick bed?
Maybe both of these were just hallucinations before I came out into this bright new world. No, this is a really cool game. It's a roguelike, so what you do, you fall down the well, and the well structure changes every time. There's a few platforms here and there. There's power-ups. There's shops to go to. But essentially, you're continually falling down the well, and you just use left and right and spacebar to jump. So left and right cursors and space to jump. And if you do double jump, it fires your rocket boots. And your rocket boots have a set amount of bullets. And they also boost you up slightly. So you're just falling and shooting the baddies and just trying to get down the well as far as you can. And when you fall so far, you do the first cavern. And then you get to pick a power up, which is random each time you play it. And then you go through the next cavern with your new power up, and then if you complete that one, you get another power up, and it's really addictive. It's really cool. It's really hard.
It looks really striking. I take it this is replacing Spelunky for you at the moment.
Yeah, it's really good. I'd heard about it, and I thought, I've got to have a go at this game. And yeah, it's cool. It is a little bit like Spelunky. I don't know if it's not got such a wide adventure aspect to Spelunky, but it's very much, it's kind of a roguelike as much as like, kind of Defender would be, if you know what I mean. And it's just, it's a great game. It's just black and white, the graphics. You can change the palettes, but black and white and red. And you get different bonuses as you play it. You can change the aesthetic of the game, things. You can unlock different hard modes, but it's really good to play. And I'm pretty sure that was like £1.99 to buy on Steam. And it's brilliant. Honestly, it's a brilliant game. It's one of them games, a goal lasts for 20 seconds, when you first start. And, even a good goal is like a minute or two. But you could easily spend an hour just repeating that minute and playing that game. It's great. You really should try it. It's also available on iOS. Yeah, and Android as well, yeah.
Yeah, I was just had a quick look. I was just, as you were talking, I just wanted to kind of see what it looked like. It looks amazing, doesn't it?
It's really cool. It's a really smart game. Simple premise, like a lot of these Masterful games are. Just falling and shooting with style, powering up your little guy and trying to fall further. And there's something about it. It's just very simple and very satisfying. So Downwell's another great game. And yeah, that's me. That's my week.
Cool.
Wow, that's really good. James, what about you? Apart from the Witness,
the other big one, I guess, is the Division beta that we both managed to sneak onto, and
yes,
I was really impressed. I think, both of us managed to make onto the alpha. I think we can say now, and that really wet my whistle for it. Fair enough, I had a lot of questions, especially after the likes of Watch Dogs came along. I thought, could Ubisoft actually do an involving game in a city. Fair enough, the theme in this one is quite different, but the Watch Dogs response, I think, from the reviewers and the public did make me question that. So I'm glad there's been some time between the two, and I was really happy to see what I found. Because the Division is set in New York, and I think some sort of plague, some sort of virus has swept out over the city, and it's just gone to hell. Like, citizens have evacuated, there's whole quarantine areas, and various ne'er-do-wells are running amok in the outlaw sections. So you get parachuted in as some sort of operative of some sort of Tom Clancy Division, who I never actually got that bit. All I know is we landed with a helicopter, I got given a gun, and I got told to sort the hell out of the place. But then after that, I really love the atmosphere, because although it's just like throws you in as if it is just another Tom Clancy run and gun, well, stop and pop, a sort of third-person cover shooter, I really like the atmosphere, because the streets are like they're just covered in snow, they're covered in rubbish, you can see the detritus of a city that's left, and it's really quite spooky if you're wandering around there on your own, and you have to go through and start releasing all these I think the ones available in the beta release, we had to free a medic to start populating the city's hospitals, and then in the main game you'll have to find a security expert and a tech expert just to get everything back online. And so you have to go into the stadium, and it's been taken over and by a gang, you have to free them from that. It's really atmospheric, but I think what for me it worked really well was you, me, and my brother and our friend Manny all gotten together, all came online, and it works so well as a 4-player game. Just the fact that all the levels are so wide and so large, it allowed you to have the space that 4 people in there felt you were all making a difference. You could go around the corners and flank them, you could just communicate, and it just started clicking. And I think the potential for the multiplayer when that comes out is superb.
Yes, absolutely. I think when we were playing, we did a 3. There was yourself, Matt, and I. We were playing of the 3. I think it was on the Friday night, wasn't it? Yeah. And then it was, and that was. It was really great, just kind of exploring it together and really just kind of getting used to the mechanics of the game. And then I think when Manny came on Sunday and there was the 4 of us, I think it just gelled so well. We really were just, and there was, we were just kind of strolling those streets and really just kind of going from point to point, and you just have someone who is just kind of the leader of your group, setting the next objective. Everybody can see where you need to go, and working together with the power-ups, the level-ups, and the different attributes that your character has. It was working. I think James, you and I, we were just kind of pinging just so we could show everyone else what the area was, if there was any baddies there, and it was just working really well. We were almost a Ubisoft demo, I think.
So we did have that slow motion walk down a street at that point, checking corners, talking very monotone, just making sure.
Finger in the ear, shutting every door that we came across.
I think it's really going to open out though when the shackles come off and the beta turns into the full game and everything opens out, because you could see a really nice set of potentials with the tech and the upgrade paths that were blocked out in this early stage, quite rightfully. The early gadgets we had, where you could send out a radar to see what bads were around and give you a boost in your damage if you could find any. There was a health grenade, there was an incendiary explosive that you could just fire out. And we split them between them, but then you could see there was different interesting toys further down the tech tree that you could start unlocking. But for me, and I don't know if you found the same, although the co-op and the story side of things seemed like an interesting use of the city and the environment, it was the Dark Zone that really made it for me. So the Dark Zone's this PvP sort of area. Well, actually not even strictly PvP, it's just an off-limits area where the virus has taken a hold, and so it's effectively lawless. But that's where the good armour and the good guns sort of lie. So you go in with your squad and you have to try and ferret around and find some harder AI characters or find some loot crates and raid those. But then it starts taking on an interesting twist as you've got to get your toys to an extraction point. So you have to call a helicopter and you have to bunker down and wait for about 90 seconds as the helicopter comes in. Meanwhile, all the other players around you have the chance to gank you and take your toys. And it was this really interesting standoff I found. We found some people who were willing to play nicely, who were obviously playing solo and just saw us walking around as a squad and tagged along, and that was quite cool. So we had effectively a silent fifth member of our team. But then you could see there were some interesting standoffs where people were eyeing our stuff, so we had to run away and come back. But equally, you shouldn't shoot each other to begin with. Once you first go in, there's this like neutral mechanic where everyone's safe. I guess everyone's just like a normal division operative. But should things go wrong and you accidentally shoot someone, then you get declared rogue and your entire squad goes rogue. And at that point, you are fair game for all other players on the server. So a little skull comes above your head and you find the entire rest of the vicinity descends on you to try to take you down because there's bonus points awarded for that.
Wow.
But it's not just you, it's your rest of the team
Yes.
as well, isn't it? You
Yes.
take rogue. You know, one of our team members, who will remain nameless, James, it wasn't me, accidentally shot someone, and our entire team was just then hunted by the rest of the people that were in the dark zone. And it was just incredible. I mean, we died quite quickly, but it was just incredible because we tried to hide, but I think we show up on everybody's radar then, don't we?
And it's this really great self-policing system as well, because you will have people going in just to find stuff and get out, and you will have people just going in there just to annoy other players, and well, not annoy, they will go in and set out to kill other players, because I think there's a bonus if you can get to the max rogue level and then survive for 5 minutes. So
I was going to ask you about that, because it sounded like I was going to ask what's the reward, because
if you get to your max rogue level, I think you get a massive, there's basically a bounty on your head, but if you survive, you get your own bounty, which is basically a huge payday at that point in time.
I see.
But did you also notice that when you died when you were rogue, we kind of went down a level, because the dark zone has its own leveling system. So in the main game, you could be a level 10, you could be a level whatever, but in the dark zone, you have your own level. So if you die while you're in this kind of rogue state, you will actually go down. You will actually lose XP. So there is a way that you're penalised for being, if you're just running around shooting people, you're actually penalised for doing that. But it was just, I mean, the interesting thing is that throughout this dark zone, you will find pockets of AI that you have to take out. They're the guys that have got the loot, and so you could accidentally, not any one of your team, I don't think we could shoot our team, but if someone else was in the mix, you could accidentally shoot them. They could just kind of get in the way of the bullet, and then you go rogue. So it was such a great mechanic. And as James was saying, there was that point where someone joined our team. We all had loot, and you can see that because you have like a little yellow, almost a sleeping bag at the bottom of your rucksack, and you can see when someone has loot. So the entire time we just kept looking at this guy because we thought we'd all be waiting for the helicopter. He could just bomb us, just put a bomb down, kill us all, and take our loot. And so there was this kind of trust issue that you had with the people that weren't in your team, and it's such a great mechanic.
It's almost like a huge social experiment, because I was talking to people at work this week who had played it over the weekend, and they said they were almost just finding the complete opposite, where they went into servers and it was just hell breaking loose. There was just people killing everyone, and there wasn't any sort of social structure, whereas I think ours was almost like a self-policing server that we seemed to land on. And so it's like peace was the norm, whereas they were just finding the complete opposite. It was just like, right, yep, the standard is everyone is red, and if you walk in it, then expect bullets to fly.
Absolutely. I mean, we were so friendly in our dark zone that at one point we had probably about 15 people doing star jumps at the helicopter pad. So basically, our team, Darren, it was just hilarious. You could do emotes while you're playing, a bit like Destiny. You could do emotes. One of the emotes was star jumping, and on the previous night, James was doing star jumping. So when Manny joined, I was like, "This is what James was doing," and so we all just started star jumping. And people were walking past us, like kind of other players were just walking past us, thinking, what the hell are these guys doing? Because we were just, and then we got to the point where we had our loot extracted, and we all start star jumping. The four of us are just begging other people to then just come and do it, and then we did. I think you, James, you got a really good video of it, of just all of us. There was about 15 people all just doing star jumps on the helicopter H-pad, and it was just such a great feeling and such a great atmosphere in the Dark Zone.
Wow. Do you think there's going to be some sort of system for the Dark Zone for, say, once the game's established for new players? Because it sounds like it could be a terrible place if the game's been out for, say, a month, and you pick it up a month later, and everybody's leveled up, and you walk in that Dark Zone, and it's going to be like, whoa.
It's...
cannon fodder. I think they do have different dark zones. So there's a dark zone kind of 1, 2, 3 that we saw in the beta.
Right. So I think
this is right, isn't it, James? And they were leveled.
Right.
They were based on levels.
Question. That's cool.
So, it was just really interesting. It was just such a, the game looked absolutely stunning. We got some, again, kind of similar to The Witness over there on the PlayStation 4. We were all playing on Xbox, and and when we came off on the Sunday night, our feed, so sorry for all of the people who offended me on the Xbox, our entire feed was just full of captures and videos of us star jumping and just kind of walking around the streets of New York. But as James was saying, when we played the alpha, I missed it when it went away, and I played the beta and I got the same feeling. I think we kind of noticed that it even looks shinier now in the beta than it did in the alpha, and the frame rate is quite solid. And I just can't wait for March. It's March 8th it comes out. I've pre-ordered it. It's sitting there on my hard drive, and I just can't wait to play it.
Wow. I'm missing out then, aren't I?
You really are. We need to get you in our squad.
Come join us in Star Jump.
Yeah. I may do. There's an open beta coming up, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did say there's another one. Is it kind of towards the end of this month?
I think so. It'll be interesting to see what changes. Because if I had one criticism for The Division, I would say that the incentives to go into the Dark Zone are supposedly so you can find new stuff, but there only seems to be a few pockets of the AI there to try and loot for it. So I hope they try and put more missions or more just side objectives in there to try and make it feel more worthy of your time. Because I think there were times that we were just having fun, just seeing that sort of social interaction, seeing how players reacted to each other. But I'm sure after, like the 4th, 5th, 6th day of that happening, then it could grow a bit thin. So I'm hoping they invest some time and some content into those areas.
I could see kind of most evenings being an hour doing the story and then an hour in the Dark Zone. You would kind of just mix and match it, and you're right, we did need some content. I think we're all very light and just kind of joking because it was the beta, we knew there wasn't any progression, but you're right, I would like to see more, or even some story in there, some points that are highlighted just for you, maybe. It's just like there's a objective for your team and not everybody kind of crowding onto that one objective point. But it's fantastic. It is absolutely such a superb game.
Wow, so you really like it. Is it similar to Destiny? Is it very similar to Destiny? I know there's going to be some similarities. Is it very similar? Is it different?
It's only similar in the sense that there is a world online that you inhabit with other people. I think Destiny is a very easy shorthand for a lot of these new experiences, these new games that aren't quite MMOs, but they're not your traditional Call of Duty multiplayer. Destiny is almost just this tag that seems to be put on this hybrids. So it's Destiny in the sense that you and your friends can go and interact with other players in a non-PvP environment, and it's Destiny in the sense that you can go and find loot and level up as you go and shoot things. But that's about where it ends. It's very much seems to be a Tom Clancy game at that point, where you have cover, you have stop and pop, you have lots of guns, and you can upgrade them and make them sights shinier or the stocks better. It's definitely not Destiny apart from the dancing.
Yes. Apart from those emotes. And the cover-based system is fantastic. You're kind of crouched down into a cover. If you see another piece of cover, it highlights A, comes up on the screen because we were playing on Xbox, and you just hold that down and your character will run to that next piece of cover. And that worked really well. And I think by the end of the beta, I was really kind of getting into that mechanic, and it's lovely.
It was so seamless as well. There were, I think you'd really like it, Darren, because there were no loading screens apart from your initial one. So as soon as you're in, everything was organic. They were hidden through sort of like tunnels or going through decontamination areas that you had to walk slowly through. But it meant that you felt you were just constantly in the world, and that was my biggest gripe with Destiny. That you were always having to spend these huge loading times just staring at your ship.
Yeah. As nice as it looked the first time it appeared.
Yes.
And also, when we went into the base in the story area, in the non-Dark Zone area, there was also a crafting table as well. So, which much to James' dismay, was locked out for the beta, but it was there. They had a crafting table.
It's probably just as well. I'd have spent all evening there collecting screws and springs and glue.
And the highlight of one of my gaming sessions was I got some fancy pants. I had fancy cargo
pants, eh?
So that's it. That's what they were called. They were called fancy cargo pants. So I was very fancy out there in the wasteland,
brightening up the day for the.
Indeed. So what else have you been playing, James?
So the final one on my list is Boy and His Blob. And this one's a nice one for me because I used to really love the NES game back in the day. And so I'm very happy to see the graphics have been spruced up slightly since then. But this was definitely a nostalgia trip for me. And I'm very happy to say it's quite a nice puzzle platformer as well. It's not quite as taxing as Witness, but it's still definitely scratching a puzzly itch. So yeah, I've just been getting on with that, and I'm about almost at the end of the second of 3 worlds, or at least I think there's 3 worlds, and it's really ramping up that jelly bean puzzling, as I think you hinted at earlier.
Yes. So are you in the caverns? Is that where there's... Because that's the world I'm in now.
Yes, yeah, almost at the end of the caverns.
Yeah, so you think there could be another world after that?
I think so. Well, I'm basically drawing from my experience on the NES that there is a whole... I don't know if this is a spoiler, but there is a blob comes from a world called Blobonia, and I'm expecting a visit to there, fingers crossed. Otherwise, they have deviated completely, and I'm not accepting it as canon.
Superb, but I absolutely loved it, and no spoiler, but it was quite nice to see that there was almost like an end of level boss as well which I really enjoyed that battle as well. Really enjoyed that puzzle, if you will, and for me, I'm playing it on my Vita, so I've had a couple of trips in and out of London, and that's just my go-to game. When I'm on the train, I had to stand the other day, and my train journey is like an hour and change, and I stood, and by the time I knew it, I was at Tunbridge Wells, because the time just went that quick, and so I'm just really loving it. It works so well on the Vita.
I forget, did you discuss it last week?
Yes.
Yeah, so everyone knows what it is. For me, it's what really makes it is just all the different forms the blob turns into, and just the character they put into all those animations. It's just superb. Whether it would be an anvil or the big rollerball that absorbs you whole, I think he's just adorable. Yes. And after collecting all the, secrets on the first world, there's this just cute little video of what I can only assume is the art director's son. And he must only be like a few years old, and he's put a tiny backpack on him, and he's making him hug a beanbag, and you can see this is just like the first start of the animation inspiration for Boy and His Blob. It's adorable.
Wow. It's. I mean, like I say, I always love when you go into a new world. You look around the circle, and there's something new that the blob will morph into. Like the first time you get the crank, and you just want to use it instantly, don't you? You just want to know what you could use it for. And you're right. I love that kind of force field. And there's also the space hopper as well, which is just fantastic. I just want to do all the levels with the space hopper. But it's just such a great game.
Yeah, it sounds great. I mean, this is another one I haven't played. I'm on my own this week with what I've played. But yeah, I've not played it. I don't know much about it. It sounds though like the blob's almost like a shmoo, if you remember the old or the new shmoo, and so he can change into anything, can he, to help you through the levels.
Yeah, and the puzzles come from you are armed with a selection of jelly beans, a specific set, and each one will turn the blob into like a bouncy castle, or a bouncy space hopper, or a trampoline, or an anvil, or a hole, and you can have to get through that level with just those tools. you can throw it far away and he'll run off and get it, and then you have to call him back to you, and there's enemies that you have to try and avoid, and you can't take any damage. So it's almost that sort of classic, I guess it's almost like Toad's treasure tracker to some extent. You've got a character with very limited abilities themselves, and so they have to manipulate the world or their friends around them to help them through it.
Cool. Sounds like a fine puzzle game indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I am overjoyed they've brought it back again, because it was a Wii game a few years ago, and I completely missed it. So the fact they brought it back on the other console generations is fantastic.
Cool. So, Anthony, have we gone through your games?
Yeah, you pretty much Witness, Boys Blob, Division. The only other game that I kind of quickly fired up because it dropped into my postbox on Friday when I got home from my dad's was Lego Marvel Avengers. So I kind of quickly popped that into the Xbox to have a look at it. I've played about maybe 2 or 3 levels of that, and it's it's Lego Marvel Avengers. It follows the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The first level and the intro, which is just amazing, is the intro to the opening scene to Age of Ultron, so the latest Avengers movie, all realised in Lego. Looks fantastic, has all of the voiceover from the movies as the new Lego games do, and it's pretty much just more Lego but with the Avengers. And like I say, I'm 3 levels in, I've popped about 3 achievements, and it's just great fun. I'm just going to try and fit it in whenever I can between the Witness and the Boy and His Blob and all those other games that I have as a backlog.
Wow, yeah, I saw some rumours that there's some Easter eggs in there pointing or hinting that they're going to bring out a Guardians of the Galaxy Lego game.
Oh, right. Well, there is. I mean, with the last Lego game, which was the Batman one, we had a DLC. There was a season pass which gave you lots of additional one-screen levels, lots of achievements, lots of extra characters. So, and there is that is available. I saw on the store that there is a season pass for this. So I'm guessing there are more levels. I think if you buy it on the PlayStation 4, there's some PS4 content, or some PlayStation, because it's on PS3 as well. There's some PlayStation specific content, such as Winter Soldier and some of the other games. So, but yeah, though I wouldn't be surprised if the Guardians of the Galaxy don't appear in at some shape or form, whether it's in the game or in a separate DLC level.
Yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, it's great. There's a whole. I love the Lego games when you first start them, because your character select screen, there's just so many rows, so many characters that you're going to meet and unlock. So I can't wait to play it. And Nicola's deep into The Witcher at the moment, so normally what happens in our house is that she will play it first, get 1,000 achievements, and then I get to play it. But because she's deep in The Witcher and doesn't want to come away, I get to play it first.
Wow! She must be getting quite deep in there. Then.
Oh, she loves it. She just absolutely loves it. She just literally, whenever there is a spare moment, she just fires up the Xbox and plays Witcher. She can't stop playing it and can't stop singing its praises as well.
It's a great thing to hear. It just paints a nice picture. She's just it's just great. Great. I'm glad she's enjoying it. It's
quite funny. On one TV, you got Nicola slaying things on The Witcher. You go onto the other TV, there's me hugging a blob or playing Lego. It's a bizarre room to be in. So, on that note, should we start the news section? And in this week's news section, Warner Brothers teased an exciting new game, only to have Amazon France and Xbox.com spoil the surprise. Square Enix announced the announcement of a release date, and the games industry has been fluffing their feathers with release sales figures. But let's start with a piece of news from you, Darren.
Yeah, well, my first little item is about the Division beta. Hooray! So you two will enjoy this.
Never heard of it.
And you'll be glad that you were playing it on Xbox, because people were cheating on the PC.
What?
Yeah, it was really easy to cheat on the PC, because you could just change some values on the client side and give yourself things like infinite ammo and super speed and even invisibility. Invisibility was actually just a side effect of super speed, because you could move that fast that the server couldn't keep up with you.
Right.
So it was like, picked everything up. And these were being used, and this makes more sense to me now, they were being used in the player versus player Dark Zone.
Right.
So yeah, it was really easy to do, and people were doing that, and people were getting rather angry and posting their fury on Reddit and other such forums and areas on the internet. So So that was a bit disturbing, and people were thinking, what's going on? Is this going to be sorted out for the actual release? Because this is insane. And there's some YouTube videos as well of getting your stuff robbed or getting killed by invisible people. But Ubisoft have actually come back to this, and they're giving an official announcement saying that they have seen a lot of interest, an unprecedented level of interest in the closed beta, and they're looking at the feedback, but they are aware of the cheating in the closed beta on PC, and the team is fully committed to providing solutions against this, and a system will be in place to ensure a fair experience for players when the game is released on March the 8th.
Wow.
So, they came back pretty quickly with that with that retort. But yeah, it's just rubbish, isn't it? If people cheating. As a gamer, I don't understand the point of cheating, because I like to think, as we've discussed before, it's a fair, level playing field, and the one that plays best wins. Or the squad that plays best wins. And you come in, someone's cheating. It's just like, well, what's the point? What's the point? They're only cheating themselves. I'll tell you that much. They're only cheating themselves.
Well, they are indeed, and that's it. There is a certain kind of people that enjoys that. If they want to fight, they want to break the game. They, instead of just going in and having some fun and just enjoying that beta. There's a lot of people who are just, all they want to do is just get in there and find a kink, find a vulnerability of the build, and just exploit it. It's really weird. It's a really weird mindset, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that that's what betas are for.
Well, exactly.
You could argue as well that, if they're going to leave a loophole open, it should be exploited to teach them a lesson. And again, that's what betas are for. And it's kind of good, I suppose, that people will exploit these so that it gets complained about, so that it's in the open, so it can be fixed. So all hail the beta, really. So for that argument, it's a good thing.
Yeah, maybe that's why we're getting the second beta to
test.
They fixed that exploit, and now they just want to test it again and put it in the hands of these people. So maybe you're right. They're doing more good than bad.
Yeah,
but you see, that's my worry with it. It's just about a month away now, and I don't know how prevalent the changes will have to be to sort this out, but it sounds pretty wide-ranging. I mean, I'm sure there's some short-term stopgaps they can do to put in, but it does make me worry slightly that this is quite a large infrastructure change by the sound of things. And I haven't touched network code for a long time, and I have no idea how they've put theirs together, but such core exploits, it would worry me that suddenly with 4 weeks to go, you've got to try and patch those.
So it's not a simple job, you wouldn't think, to change it from client side to server side? Because that seems to be the issue, that the server's looking to the clients and saying, oh yeah, whatever values they've got, that's fine. But what it sounds like, because you can't lock the client side, because that's the user's PC. So that needs to be incorporated into the server side. I mean, I've got no clue how difficult that would be.
But it depends how ingrained it is, but that's entirely what they've got to do. They've got to try and move that logic from local to the server, and it's who knows how many different routes and checks they've got to do to reroute that. But it almost sounds like it's got so used to being tested on things like the Xbox and the PlayStation, where you've got this really safe, closed architecture. Then suddenly just the absolute wastelands of the PC comes, and you can do anything to your own machine, and then it suddenly gets that's your testing ground. That's where it's really going to get hacked open. And so yeah, you're right, the beta is absolutely the best place to find it, but you just wonder how much repercussion the workload that's going to come from this actually is.
That design shocks me.
Because you're right, if they are fixing that, they've got a month and a few days before the game comes out. Then it's got to go gold, and I haven't got the final download yet on my Xbox, so the file's not there for a day one patch to fix this. So they are obviously still trying to fix it in the core game, but time is running out for something that could be as big as this.
It's just so surprising, isn't it, that the team working on the PC version, you kind of would think this would be fundamental rules like this would be sort of like the core of the game. It would be identified that it couldn't be client side.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to cast aspersions. It just seems... It might just be a symptom of how long this game's been in development, that it's gone through so many changes or so many iterations that this is something that's just slipped through the cracks, or it honestly was a test and they're going to go, right, now we can see how bad and prevalent it was. These are where the weaknesses are. Let's patch them up.
Yeah.
We always had this in the plan. We just wanted to double check.
Yeah. And it's a big red flag now. It's like, okay, that doesn't work that way. At least we know about it. Let's sort it. And as I say, it doesn't matter. It's what betas are for. But it's surprising that at this level, this far into the game, it's there. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I wonder if the PC version would get delayed. We'd see. That would, if it is complex, maybe we'll see a shift in the PC's release date.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, maybe. And also, with it being PC, I guess it's going to be on Steam or whatever that Ubisoft platform is now.
I was going to say Origin, but that's not a Uplay.
Uplay, well, it changed, didn't it? So,
whatever it is.
We would have more time, I guess, to get that online version out as well.
Yeah, and to be honest, there's no point in sticking to a release date. If that would need to be solved. It would just ruin the fun, wouldn't it, to release it in that state?
It depends, because I don't. It's not game breaking. I think if it was not running, we're talking Batman levels of not actually being able to run or play the game itself.
Do you think if they just closed the Dark Zone, then something like that?
Yeah, if I knew that was happening, I wouldn't go anywhere near the Dark Zone. I'd invite friends in. We could play co-op. We could do what we want locally. Well, we could even start putting our own infant speed on to have fun locally. But I just wouldn't touch that multiplayer side of things.
Yeah, you just avoid it. Yeah. So there you go. That's a little bit of information about the beta. And the other thing is, Digital Foundry from Eurogamer had a look at the versions of the beta running on PS4 and Xbox and did their usual comparison. And the good news is they're pretty much the same.
Fantastic.
So no argument. It's like both the same. Maybe a hardly discernible slight betterness on PS4, but it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
For all intents and purposes,
it really doesn't.
It's the same on both. Both capped at 30 frames per second.
Yep.
Which is good. And there you go. And the only thing I might hesitate to offer is it held back for parity? Has it been held back for parity and they've kept the PS4, they've had to hold it back to equal the Xbox One. That's what everyone was going mad about on NeoGAF anyway.
Right.
It was like, it's like a little article. Yeah. They're both the same, and like I think about 3 comments down, held back for parity. It's not right. PS4 should be better if it wasn't for, and all that stuff. But essentially, I'm just going to stick with the specific detail. It doesn't matter what you get it on. If you get it on either of the consoles, you're going to get a great experience, the same experience on either. So it doesn't matter what you pick. And if you've only got one, you don't have to worry about the other platform being better, which I like to hear. I think that's good. And obviously, if you've got a PC, you can have as great visual experience as your graphics card will allow.
Yes.
But you'll get robbed blind in the Dark Zone at the moment.
Yeah, frame rate probably helps that all the other players are invisible,
but it will look shiny. I mean, one of the guys in our squad, which was Manny, he has a 4K capable PC, and he downloaded the beta on his PC, and he said it just looked absolutely stunning. I've been trying to find on YouTube on my 4K TV. I've been trying to find if there was some streaming or some videos of the beta, but I haven't been able to find them. But I can't wait to see what this looks like, because he just said, it looks fantastic on the Xbox, which we were playing, but he just said, obviously 4K, seeing it in 4K is just a thing of beauty.
Yeah, I bet it is. It's funny because being that I've left PC gaming for so long, I look at the console games and think they're the best it gets, and I haven't seen what these PC games look like now for ages. So I look forward to someday seeing them, because even if I watch a YouTube video, I don't feel I can appreciate it, because of compression and things. So I'd really love to see it live on a monitor, see a game running in 4K on a 4K screen. And maybe it's better that I didn't, actually.
No, absolutely. I mean, I've seen things like Grand Theft Auto. I've seen things like, I think it was Battlefield. There were some real kind of some games that were running on 4K from 4K YouTube on my TV, and they just look stunning. Almost realistic. Star Wars Battlefront. That was the other one that just looked like a movie. It looked like you were watching Star Wars, and it was just incredible, and it did make you kind of go, I've got to go back to my console now. But it's good to be on a console where everything works. You don't have to download drivers. You don't have people that are invisible, etc., etc. That's what I'm sticking to at the moment. So the next piece of news is with me, and it's about Witness. So it's about that lovely puzzle game that's driving James and I crazy, and soon to be driving Darren crazy. It's Jonathan Blow has been on Twitter, and he's been talking about sales numbers. So Jonathan Blow tweeted at the end of the last week, said it's hard to talk about numbers. This was Jonathan Blow's tweet, without breaking NDAs, but The Witness is on track to sell more in a week than Braid has sold in its first year. So it is just selling like hotcakes. It's quite interesting because before this game came out, there were some negative reviews. There were some 10 out of 10s. I think IGN gave it a 10 out of 10, and other sites did as well. But there was some negative reviews as well. There was so a lot of people were kind of waning maybe at the start and looking at it as James was saying. It's hard to think, do I really want to play this? Is this the kind of game I want? But it seems like word of mouth, that zeitgeist has really kind of captured a lot of people, and we're really it's just selling like hotcakes. So with The Witness being $40 and Braid was priced around about $15, there's a lot of money being passed around at the moment for Jonathan Blow, and quite rightly so. This game is a masterpiece in gaming, and I think it's just, and hopefully it won't take that long to get the next game out.
Yeah, I'm glad we've got past the focus on the price as well, because I saw so many stories in the start of the year about going, it's going to be $40, it's going to be $40, and people going, well, it's just an indie puzzle game. I'm glad something like this came out at that nice mid-level, like £30 over here, $40 over there, so we can start getting away from it. It has to be $15 or $60 or somewhere in between. This is a medium-sized game that took a medium budget. It's like, yeah, price it accordingly, and I'm really happy that Jonathan Blow stuck to his guns and gave it a sensible price.
Yes, absolutely, and the PlayStation backed him as well, and with that price point, I think when you, as you say, James, once you start playing it, it's worth it. It is, and I think when we were talking about this last week, I think it's so easy to just put something into a bucket, and you say, I'm downloading this title, it's not available on disc, therefore it must be £20 or it must be £15, but this is something just a little bit more than that, and I think that's the way that gaming is going to go. We're going to get more of these games that are these big titles, but they're download only, and I think we're going to get more of those. It's not just going to be these quick kind of little indie games that are going to be available for download only.
Yeah. I must say, guys, it was the price that put me off.
Yeah.
I was like,
I can understand that. I can completely understand that.
I was kind of taken aback by the price. Thought it was a bit cheeky. And he's actually took to Twitter over the last day or so, Jonathan Blow, and he mentioned that it was being the top pirated game on some well-known torrent site or other, which is kind of a backhanded compliment, I suppose. Yeah. But he was like saying, I'm just mentioning it because I want enough money out of this game to make the next game, which is, obviously a fair point. And some replies cited the price as a reason for the piracy. Which, there's no excuse for the piracy anyway. But it was quite funny because Jonathan replied saying, well, that's funny you should say that, but I had the same problem with Braid. And Braid was, $10.99 or whatever back in the day. So that quelled that argument. It's just because people will get something for free if they can. That's all that's about. It's not about the price. But I think I would also argue that the people that are going to buy it will still buy it as well. I think a lot of people who pirate stuff wouldn't buy it if they weren't pirating it. I don't know. That's controversial. You have to excuse all my coughing and stuff. I'm really sorry. I'm obviously not quite as well as I thought I was. Excuse me a sec. Bloody hell. Sorry. Right. But yeah, it was the price that put me off because I love Braid so much. I love that game. And by association, I'm a big fan of Jonathan Blow. And I was looking forward to this game. It's been 8 years or so in development. But yeah, the price made me hold back. Because I thought, £30 for a load of puzzles? I think I said something similar to this last week. It's like, it just sounds like Professor Layton, and the core of it is just solving puzzles. Is that worth the money? But you guys, listening to you obviously say it is.
Yeah. And it did take the word of mouth and a couple of initial Let's Plays just showing the opening scene to really draw me in. Because I was...
So initially, were you a bit like, whoa, with the price then as well?
No, it wasn't the price. It wasn't the price for me at all.
Was it the content then? Was it the fact that it was just
solving puzzles? It was the content, because I was
like, it's not grabbing me that much, the idea of this game. It's not pulling me in.
Yeah, it was seeing how the puzzles evolved. That's what drew me in, because we've got all the Professor Laytons, and they're all £30, I think, minimum, being Nintendo handheld games. And so I haven't got a problem with puzzle games that will last me many hours. But it was just merely, is this the puzzle game for me? That's the only thing that stopped me. Yeah,
I think I was watching some of the sort of trailers for it, and I was breaking it down in my mind what I expected from the game. And it was just, go to this island and solve puzzles. And when I realised the puzzles were all 2D, I was kind of a little bit let down with that. And then I was like, £30, that sounds like loads for this sort of game. But I didn't look at any Let's Plays, because the whole point of this game, I thought, was to, not to have any spoilers.
Yes.
So for me, it sounds like if I saw the game in action, it would entice me to buy it a lot more. But keeping myself safe from spoilers doesn't give me enough interest to buy it.
Yeah, there's a couple out there that just do the first 15 minutes or so, and they actually stop going, this is the introductory area. This is as basic as it gets, and it doesn't really spoil anything, but gives you a taster of how it goes. So we should definitely see if you're on the fence, have a look, because it's more than just puzzles.
I think I'm going to probably.
I think it's an experience as a whole.
But the other disappointment is, I love the music in Braid. I love the music in Braid so much, and I believe there's no music in The Witness.
Yeah, but what you can do is then just put the music from Braid on Spotify and just play that.
Yeah, that's a good argument. But I was expecting new compositions from the guys that did the music from Braid. I ask a lot, you see. I'm hard to please.
I think what you're after is Braid 2.
This
isn't it? This is just because it's Jonathan Blow. It's completely different. It's
not completely different though, because it uses some of the way that he laid down the rules that he did in Braid. I could see the Braid influence in it from your descriptions, but it's not Braid 2 I want. It was just I wanted it for £15.
Yes.
that was it. And
I think what you should do is when I'm playing next on the PlayStation, you should jump into my stream. You can do that. You can share.
I could have a go, couldn't I?
Yeah, you could. I could give you control, and you will be. I tell you, even right at the start, because at the start there's an area and you have to open a gate, and that area alone. When I finished that, I just had this big grin on my face, and I was like, I'm going to enjoy this, And it was just, and you kind of knew, because the first area is quite easy to unlock. All the puzzles are quite easy. You just knew that once you got outside this gate, it's going to become hard and quite quickly, and it does kind of ramp up like that. But you should totally do that, so you could get to feel the mechanics, kind of get that elation when you figure out a puzzle. I'll just leave you to it. I'll just put you in an area and just say, there you go, solve that puzzle, and then you'll
watch me end up reduced to a crying mess.
Yeah, and knowing you and Claire like I do, I know that I could see you two on a Saturday night with a pen and pad, similar to James and Ali, similar to Nicola and I, just working these puzzles out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the beauty of this game.
I can't leave a puzzle till it's done, like I said with Claire. And there was one time I had mates round, and I sat there trying to work out a puzzle, and they all fell asleep. And I just sat there. It was a great night for them. And I just sat there and until I worked it out, and it took about an hour. But I put it to you then, guys. This is what I'm going to say. I'm playing Tomb Raider at the moment. So that's the big one I'm going to finish. Yeah. Now, when I'm finished with that, I've got a choice. I'm at a fork in the road, and I'm going to let you two decide now. I will get and play next either The Witness, because you say it's good, and I'm going to believe you, or Life is Strange. Again, because you both say it's good, and I believe you.
God, this sounds like one of those puzzles in Life is Strange.
Yeah. Could you give us a minute, Darren? We can discuss.
We just need to stare at the screen for a little while and think about it inside. Wow.
Oh, man.
That's such a tough one. And Life is Strange is also, I know you like your physical copies, Darren. Life is Strange has come out as a physical.
Do you know what we could do is suggest Life is Strange, and then by the time he's finished that, The Witness might have come down in price slightly.
But no, you can't. That's not included. You can't think of that. It's got to be. That's not an option to think about. It's just, imagine The Witness is going to be the same forever. Which it isn't, obviously. You've just got to tell me which one. And
I would go with Life is Strange. I honestly would. I had a really good conversation with a friend at work, and she'd mainlined Life is Strange over the weekend. She played all 5 episodes in 2 days.
Wow.
And I was so overjoyed because I just as soon as I found that out, I found her and we chatted about it for 15 minutes.
Brilliant.
There's no productivity that morning.
No.
Let's go and talk about Life is Strange. Yeah, absolutely. No, I think Life is Strange. Definitely.
Well, I'd download it as well. I'd download it because it's.
And the great thing about Life is Strange is you can take it one episode at a time. So if you play the first episode, it's not clicking with you. You can then go and buy The Witness. But I kind of have a feeling at the end of the first episode of Life is Strange, you would be hooked.
No, I'm going to take your guys' word for it and go for the whole thing. But so that's what you've decided, is it?
Yes, Life is Strange.
Right then, okay. And then
final answer.
I might ask you again when I've clocked that. I'll give you another choice of 2 games.
I like this, that we get to control your gaming habits.
Guide my gaming year.
Yes. Right, next up is Viva Pinata, Trouble in Paradise.
No!
Superb. And the next piece of news, James, is with you.
Yes, carrying on the sales spin. It's not quite as vague as Mr. Jonathan Blow, but a few big titles have revealed their sales figures for the last quarter. It basically seems to be the time where everyone starts reporting their financials.
Yeah.
So EA, Konami and Nintendo have all had conference calls where they've revealed all. And rather than focusing on the financials, because I always think that's a bit dry and you can always start to worry or celebrate depending on which way you take them. But so we've got a few. The first one is EA have reported that Star Wars Battlefront has shipped 13 million copies. That's shipped, so that's sell into stores, not necessarily through, but I can't imagine it being that far off if they've pushed that many out there.
No.
So that's an amazing number, and they basically said it did better than they thought it would as well, which is great. And I guess just the way the movie took really helped fuel that. But they basically said as well that they think it brought in lapsed gamers and maybe dads playing games with their sons, or mums playing games with their daughters, just bringing them in, go, look, this is what I like, this is a universe that I really like, come and play with me at this point in time. So it seems to be drawing on nostalgia from gamers and film goers alike.
Wow, that's a nice picture.
Yeah, it's for a massive corporation, it's like, oh, that's quite a sunny thought.
And it's quite nice because I guess from EA that is going to be a mixture of both digital and physical.
Yes, yeah,
13 million.
They didn't really say the split, but they did say that more physical copies were sold than anticipated. But to be honest, I think given the demographic they were after and the picture they painted about almost those lapsed gamers coming back, you can imagine them going into HMV, going into game and picking it off the shelves rather than going through to the online stores.
Yes, I'd love to know how many people came out of watching Force Awakens and just went straight and bought, an Xbox or a PlayStation 4 because they knew that game was there, because it was quite heavily marketed on TV. So you could just imagine coming out, full nostalgia trip. Star Wars is back. It's an amazing movie. Go straight into game and then just kind of off you go and then home to play this. I could just imagine so many people doing that. I mean, my brother was one of them. My brother bought an Xbox One. With the Star Wars pack, and he's loving it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a crazy number though, isn't it? 13 million units just shifted.
Wow,
yeah, amazing. Yeah, staggering amount.
That's really good. And we were, and you can always see, because I think we were reporting last week that I think Darren, you were saying that there was a couple of servers that were kind of dropping off, but most of the time, whenever you go into those big Walker Assault battles, they're always full. So it's just,
I think
people are still playing it as well.
I think I misinterpreted it, because what I saw was and I've seen it since, because I've been playing a bit of Star Wars, as I said, is when I try and join the server, it started to say, look for servers 90% full, 80% full, 70% full, 60% full. And I sort of had a bit of a eureka moment the other day, and I was like, dash you fool. It's not that they're empty, it's that there's too many full. And so it's looking downwards for empty ones to fit me into.
Got you.
It was just an instant reaction. Like, I was like, I'm having to wait. It must be because their servers are empty. Because when it first happened, they hadn't announced any of the new content and stuff. I was thinking, are people going away? And I was worried about that because I like it. But then I played it again, as I say, and I just thought, hold on a minute. It's looking for servers 90% full, 80% full, 70% full. So it's looking for servers with more space to fit me in. I think that's what it actually meant, and I think that I misconstrued it last week.
Right. Because I think we got tweeted by a listener, Stuart, who said that he was getting the same on Xbox. Because I'm playing it on both platforms now, but he was saying that when he's playing it on Xbox, he's getting the same thing. So that must be it. I think,
I haven't looked it up to verify that. But what do you think from that? From my new slant on it, I think it's more of a positive thing that the game is just rammed.
Yeah.
And I think I just instantly just sort of misworked it out. I was like, it must be that they're empty, but no, it's not that they're empty, because it would be a different message.
Yeah. Did you never jump in, James? Did you never kind of jump into Star Wars?
I'm quite glad I wasn't on when the film came out, because I'm sure I've admitted to you in the past that although I'm a Star Wars fan, I'm not a massive fan. Like, I like the universe, but I'm not going to be queuing or like downloading this day one. So it never really had the draw for me. It's like I don't have the association with the film that means I will buy it no matter what. And equally, it didn't have the gameplay that meant I wanted to try it. So happy that it exists. Like, no bad feelings for it at all, but it just didn't attract me whatsoever.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, that's fair. That's a fair comment.
I thought you were going to lynch me then. So
no, absolutely. I think for people like Darren and I, who are obviously kind of like big Star Wars fans, it's that game you wanted to play when you were a kid, and I'm a little bit older than you guys, so I'm just, it is that game that I always wanted to play when I kind of came out after watching, A New Hope.
Yeah, me too. And it sort of makes me envy the kids today, as it were, because they can come out of the cinema.
Granddad.
Yeah, they can come out of that cinema and just download a brilliant game.
Well, absolutely, they can be in that.
They can be in the movie, and it's so rubbish, wasn't it? I don't know. I probably saw it in 82 or something. I know, probably 7 or something. And what did we have? Some rubbish Walker attack game that was a bit like, I think it was a Jeff Minter game, like Attack of the Mutant Camels. Do you remember that?
Well, I had an Empire Strikes Back game on my Atari, so we're talking joystick, one button on my Atari that my brother and I used to fight for to get a go of. So I remember kind of I got that Christmas when Star Wars came out. So I think Star Wars came out in the May. Normally came out in May back in the day, and then I got that for Christmas, and that was just that was an amazing game. And I think my brain filled the rest in.
Yeah. I had this one, and you were a block. You were a block that was like a snow speeder. And the AT-AT was a bigger block, and
exactly,
it was just awful. But your imagination did it a lot. But
in my head, it looked just like Star Wars Battlefront.
Yeah. I don't know how good they got it.
No. So what else has been selling by the bucket loads?
Yeah, next up we've got Konami, and they announced that Metal Gear Solid 5 had shipped 6 million copies worldwide, including digital copies.
Cool.
So yeah, a good healthy load for that. I was always interested to find out how Metal Gear would go, because I thought it would be this really niche title that people had hyped up, or it would sell gangbusters. So it's, again, I guess good for Konami, even though they are exiting their AAA space, for them to have made one last hit before they leave it just to Pro Evo.
Nice swan song for them, and for Kojima with them. Yeah,
indeed.
Before they go off to Pachinko World.
Yeah, I'll be, because all the figures then come after us in yen, but I'll be interested to see if that even comes to scratch the cost they put out for Metal Gear, given the rumours of that dev budget.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a lovely game, though. I loved it.
We also have Nintendo got on the numbers bandwagon, and I'm very happy for all of these to wash their faces, but especially for Splatoon. Splatoon managed to ship over 4 million copies. Now, given the Wii U has only got about 12 million install base, that's like 1 in every 3 Wii U users.
Yeah, that's a great figure.
Splatoon, which is a superb attach rate.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the thought that your game is out with as pretty much a third of the entire demographic you could sell to is brilliant.
Yeah,
that's really good. That's such a great figure for that game.
For a new IP as well, it's really good, isn't
it? Yeah. I think it shows that when Nintendo want to do something new and original, there is still the hunger for it to be received.
Yeah, and it's such a great slant on the FPS genre, isn't it?
Oh, it's so clever. It's so clever.
Family can play, the kids can play. You're not shooting each other. You're shooting the walls. You're shooting the environment. What a great! They turned it on its head. Genius.
And even the fact that they've just managed to drip feed content out over time as well, I think has given this life that so many other shooters don't have, because I think they only released their final map just before Christmas or something like that. So that's almost a 6-month run of content that's been slowly passed out for free as well.
Yeah, there were a few eyebrows raised at launch that there wasn't that much there.
Yes,
but they've been true to the word, haven't they? And they've been releasing free stuff ever since. Yeah, you're absolutely right, and that is great, and it shows. Like you say, Nintendo, when they want to do it right, they can.
Yeah. Mario Maker also sold over 3 million, and Yoshi also broke the million mark as well. So our little woolly friend doing okay there. But the number that really stood out for me, that horrified me and made me wonder in equal amounts was, okay, I'm going to guess how many amiibos were sold last year.
Oh my goodness me! 6 million.
Anthony?
Yeah, maybe that's a bit higher. I'm gonna go for 4.5.
20.5 million amiibo figures.
Holy moly!
That
man.
And there's me going. That's a bit high. Oh, I think Darren's overshot it.
Yeah,
I win.
It's insane.
I mean, Nintendo win.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it's manufactured scarcity wins.
Yeah, but just think of how many people. I mean, I've got 5. I will admit to 5.
Oh, what have you got?
Okay, so I've got 3 of the yarn Yoshis, one of each colour, because they are adorable.
Yep.
I've got the obligatory Kirby, because I love Kirby, and I've got the obligatory Luigi, because he's my favourite.
Cool.
So that's it.
Yeah,
And
I've only got one Yoshi, I think. I got mine. It came with Woolly World, didn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Wow.
Have you got any, Darren? Have you got a secret hoard?
I set myself the impossible task of acquiring a Rosalina, because Sam unlocked her in Super Mario 3D World, and I thought, I'll get him a Rosalina. And I'd read a few things that they were kind of a bit difficult to get hold of, but I thought, I'll just get one. And then I went on a mission for weeks trying to get one, and they were just I just couldn't. And then because I couldn't get a Rosalina, I sort of stamped my foot and didn't get anything. And I did hear that they had replenished a lot of stock Nintendo now, and that amiibos were a lot easier to get hold of, and that they'd sort of rectified the problem. But I still haven't seen a Rosalina in the shops, though I have seen quite a lot of others.
$13.38 on Amazon. You could get it tomorrow.
Oh wow, that's all right. I might get it in
if you have Amazon Prime.
Brilliant. So they have replenished. That's good. That's really cool. My favourite one, I think, was the Pixel Mario.
Yeah, I quite like that in principle, but actually seeing it up close, it didn't really ring true to what I expected Mario to be.
Oh, I like it's an 8-bit Mario though.
Oh, it's an 8-bit, but it just struck me more like it looked like a Minecraft tribute rather than an actual.
Oh yeah, okay.
Mario.
I see what you mean. I quite liked that though. That was good.
No, I can completely see why people did, but. Yeah, I almost feel bad that I've got 5, because for years I've been saying, like, they just don't do anything. They just don't do anything. And then I look to before I packed it away, I looked to my shelf and going, there's a little collection growing there. I've got to be careful.
Is there a favourite character that isn't an amiibo that you'd like to be?
Ooh. Now, I would probably say it would be the variations on Kirby. So if you had, like, from when Kirby plays in Smash Brothers, if Kirby inhaled Link, I think that would be great. He was there with his little hat and his little sword, a little shield.
Wow.
That would probably tempt me to part with more money towards Nintendo.
Yeah. What about you, Anthony?
That's a tough
Is there a Star Fox one?
I don't think there is yet.
I might go with that.
No, there is one. There's one for Smash Brothers.
Oh, yeah. Okay. But what I'd really love is his little mate from Star Fox Adventures. His little
Slippy.
Is it Slippy?
Oh, you mean the dinosaur?
Yeah, the little dinosaur. That'd be really cool.
Oh, right.
Yes. Is it tricky?
Yes.
Tricky.
It was tricky.
It was tricky. Yeah.
Yes, I must admit, I was in game today, and I was looking at the amiibos. I was just going to have a quick wander around. I was looking at the amiibos, and the Animal Crossing amiibos really kind of grabbed my attention today. You know, again, I'm desperate for like an Animal Crossing game on the Wii U, or obviously the NX now. And they had one. Is it Blathers? Blathers?
Oh, the owl.
Blathers.
Yeah,
I call him Blathers.
Yeah, and I was like, I want that. You know, I was very tempted to just to take that to the counter.
Or the guitar playing dog would be good as well.
Yes,
I'm sure they've got KK Slider out there.
Thank you for that. KK Slider.
But I think the ones that I would like, I think they're already out there because Wind Waker Link is out and that's there, and also Mega Man as well. You know, those kind of figures, and they're all there. Luigi and Mario, obviously, but the Wind Waker Link is something that I would like.
Yeah, I'd love because for me, Street Fighter was all about the Super Nintendo, even though it's a Capcom game. So. And it won't be now because obviously Street Fighter 5's PS4 exclusive, but it'd be great to get a Ryu. But that's not going to happen.
I'm sure they said there's one Street Fighter character coming, but I could have completely made that up.
Oh. I bet it's some rubbish one, like Zangief or something.
Yeah, if you type Ryu Amiibo into... is it? I think Nintendo have got it themselves. Yeah, I'm sure the Ryu Amiibo is coming along.
Right, well, if that comes out, I'm going to have to get it.
That's it. Between that and Rosalina, that's where the collection starts.
Yes. Then I'm just mugged up.
It's all starting now, isn't it?
I'm going to get one of them shelves that I can't pronounce.
But I'm hoping that obviously they will, because if they've sold 20 million of these, they're going to bring this technology over to the NX. You know, this has to come over to their next platform, and hopefully maybe they'll start doing even more exciting and innovative stuff with them as well.
I hope so, because it's almost as if the technology part is secondary to just the figure, even though the figure does nothing. It's weird. It's just having it. It looks so nice. It's got great production values. You don't really hear of much about people. I've got to get the Amiibo because it does this with a game, do you?
The only one I've ever heard is the Pixel Mario for... but the Pixel Mario for Mario Maker gives you that super mushroom, and that's the only way of getting it. But yeah, I'd forgotten about the Zelda unlocking a new dungeon also. So effectively you've got the DLC in a £15 figure.
Yeah, there's a lot of... there's a bit of an outcry about that, isn't there, really?
Yeah, I'm in two minds of it, going, well, you've got a remake and they want to make a bit more from it. You could always just go and play the original, but that's the cynic in me. That's the cynic.
But I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, you use them in Woolly World, and you will change your Yoshis to whatever you put on that near field. So if you have Link, then Yoshi kind of changes that color, and it's just they do some little things like that. And that was the other one that I was just looking at. I'm just looking at Amazon, going, I just want to buy them all. It's,
your cart is growing.
Olimar. From
Pikmin. Yeah.
There's actually a couple of Pikmin as well on that little Amiibo. Right, anyway, next piece of news. It might be a bit early in the year, but let's start talking E3. So E3, we've had a couple of announcements about E3. So E3 is going to be happening in June this year in LA. But EA have decided that they're skipping E3 this year. So EA, for the first time in 20 years, are not taking part in the main show. So EA is, as you know, there's lots of conferences that happen around that time, but then there is a show floor experience that lasts for about 4 days, and EA normally have quite a big presence in the South Hall, but EA have decided this year that they're not going to be there. Instead, what they're going to do is they're going to do a couple of events called EA Play. They're going to do them in LA, so they're around in that hype, but they're also going to do it in London as well. So we're going to have an EA Play in London and in Los Angeles, and this is where they're going to showcase their events. Now, instead of being in industry and news outlets only, these are going to be open to the public as well. So this allows people to get hands-on of all these kind of new EA titles. Now we're obviously Madden, we're obviously going to have a new Mass Effect. There's going to be a lot of games that we're going to be able to get hands-on. So one is happening in London, one is happening in LA. They're going to kick off in LA with their keynote, and this is going to be happening at 1 p.m. Pacific time on the 12th of June. Now this is on the Sunday. When I was reading the article, when I was just kind of preparing for the pod, I was quite happy that this is on the June the 12th, because this is on the Sunday. So Microsoft, Sony, Ubisoft, etc., they're all kicking off on the Monday. That's when kind of E3 officially starts. But EA is getting out in front of everyone, and they're going to do their show on Sunday. Now, the reason why I was quite happy with this is because if anyone's kind of followed my Twitter, or kind of, I think for the last couple of years, I think you do the same as well, James, is that when you're that E3 Monday, when you're going through all those different press conferences, the EA one is when you start to dip a little. It's because they never really gripe you. I think last year, Darren, you were watching it and Pele came out, and you were like, we then had half an hour of Pele. It was like, what the hell is this? And and obviously EA with their famous line, "Let's talk mobile," which I think the world tweeted, "Let's not."
Mobile.
So I think with EA getting out on the Sunday, I think they're going to get everybody when they're fresh, when they're excited. Obviously, getting users there, getting kind of gamers to be at these keynotes. They're going to get a lot more excitement. Is going to happen.
I think it's going to be better as well in the terms of the presentation, because when they had that dedicated slot on stage, you felt they had to fill an hour or so, and as proved by the Pele, as much as I respect him as a footballer, that was not the right place to have a little chat show.
No.
And so actually if they can pull it out, and just look at what Nintendo have done. Nintendo have done wonders with pulling away from the stage and actually creating their treehouse, creating their online presentations, and it's given them a whole new personality that you got a touch of in their old stage shows, but now they've been able to go to town with all the models and like just sending up their executives and giving them each their own brand. I don't suggest that EA do that, because beyond Peter Moore, I don't think many of us could name many EA executives. But it at least allows them to concentrate what they need to in a time that suits them, and not to pad to fill that gap.
Absolutely, and I think that there's also, if they've got hands-on with gamers being kind of hands-on with these events after the keynote, it enables them for people like Twitch streamers, YouTubers, podcasters like us as well, to get hands-on and get that good stuff. It's not just press that are going to be able to see this. So, I think it's a really interesting change for EA, and they're quite a bold move, because it's almost saying that we don't need E3. We're doing our own thing. So, could this be a change that's happening? That EA are the first ones to make that change? Are we thinking about maybe this could be the end of E3?
Yeah. We've said this before, though, haven't we? Because there was that bit when it all moved into an aircraft hangar outside Santa Monica a few years ago, but everyone came back. But Darren, what when I say E3 to you, what do you expect?
I expect the glitz and the glamour, really, of a big show and exclusive announcements from all the heavy hitters. That's what really I want from E3. And I remember when it disappeared, it felt, because E3 had sort of been on the decline for a little while, for a few years before it did, and then it was like, all right, there's no E3 this year. And it felt like something was missing, because there was nothing there to replace it. There were attempts, but nothing was the same. So, I don't know, there's a lot of industry cynicism around E3. Around it as an entity. It's as if it could do with being completely rebooted and rebranded, and maybe it'd be the better for that. But having said that, last year's E3 I thought was pretty good. I thought it picked up a little bit, like, we had the Video Game Awards. I thought the last edition of that was the best one, and I thought the last E3 that we saw I thought they're starting to hit the pace here. They're starting to get it right. But with EA going, because they're so big, it just makes me wonder, are Ubisoft next?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, E3 is that time of the year where we get to celebrate games. We get to see new shiny stuff that's coming out over the next 12 months. We get hands-on on those games that we've just had preview events or we've just seen little snippets of. And for me, it is just that ginormous celebration. And I love it. I'm there. I get myself cozy from like 5 o'clock when Microsoft starts all the way through to, I did the Sony one, I think, which finishes at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I just love it, and for me they are just excellent. But to see this happen, and the biggest thing I think is because EA won't be on the show floor, they normally take up a large chunk of the South Hall. So what's going to fill it? Has Nintendo already booked it and EA couldn't get in there, so that's why they're holding this event outside, where they're given a small one because Nintendo is back and they're going to blow us away. Who knows?
Wow, that's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be amazing. Playable NX on the show floor.
Yeah, wow. And I always get so excited as well when watching it. And I think about, I always think like the world, the gamers who are interested worldwide are all watching this at the same time as me, and I get goosebumps. it might be corny, but you get those intros from the big hitters like the Sony conference and the Microsoft keynote, and I just get so excited. And I've been watching it for years, and I'm still not. I just can't help myself. I'm just like, yes, this is amazing. Look how I'm always saying to Claire or whoever's in the room, I'm like, look how games have evolved. It's amazing. Look what technology's given us. Look, we're watching this on a console now around the world. We're live seeing this, and it's as if it used to be more of just an executive thing, a business thing, and it's now it's business. It's embraced the gamers as well, and it is a big celebration of gaming. I love it.
Yeah,
I'd miss it if it went.
But I just see maybe this move away from there is more of that publishers such as EA are reliant more now on those word of mouth outlets, that is your Twitch, your YouTubers, your podcasts, that really are kind of taking off in the last couple of years, and maybe that the press outlets are not needed. I
think you're right.
Much,
there's a decline there.
Yeah, that preview event is not the old style that we're used to, which is that kind of first glimpse preview review event. I think, are they then swaying away to more of this kind of word of mouth?
Yeah, and I think it's especially as like the styles that we look at in terms of our favourite sites. I think a lot of them are more personality than article driven, aren't they? So it's more like getting people's feelings on as much the conferences as it is the games themselves. So I'm not quite sure how much we'll miss from the actual EA booth being removed, but if they still have the announcements and things, I think we'll still get that same feedback. You'll still get the YouTubers and the vloggers commenting as it goes, live streaming it. And for me, that's, I find, the best way to consume these things, either with Twitter on in the background or with a live stream with commentators talking over the top of the actual conference. Just getting that instant reaction, because it almost feels like you're absorbing it, as you say, Darren, with the whole world, the community watching with you.
Yeah, that's what I always feel. And I find it hard to have to look at Twitter, because I think I'm going to miss something. I can't take my eyes off the screen. It's like I'm trying to tweet Anthony, but I can't, because I'm scared I'm going to miss something in this montage. Obviously, when they roll out Pele, that's your time, isn't it?
That's catch up.
Absolutely. That was my bathroom break. But yeah, I mean, like last year, I had like a big TV streaming via Xbox on Twitch. I had my laptop, I had my iPad. I had a little E3 command center in my house. I was ready for it. And you're right. It is just such a great just to watch along and comment and just be kind of part of that. So it's fantastic. So that's kind of EA. So I'm very interested in the EA show that's going to be in London as well. That's open to both press and also to the public, so I'm going to have a look at that, because it's it's an hour away from where I live, so it could be interesting to just go down there and kind of get hands on some of these games. Also, another E3 notice that we've had is Bethesda. Now, Bethesda have said they tweeted, I think on Monday they tweeted, "Are you ready for E3?" And they're going to do another Bethesda showcase. So we go again on the Sunday, which they did last year, at 7 p.m. Pacific time. They're going to do another one of these Bethesda EA showcases. Now, I didn't think this was going to happen, because last year it was all about Fallout. So they had Fallout, they had that. We've announced it, it's coming out soon. Here's some stuff you're going to get. They showed off Fallout Shelter, they showed off Doom and Dishonored. But they're doing it again. So could they be unveiling maybe some Fallout DLC?
I hope so. I think they've basically had a year to try and start polishing it and seeing where everything was leading, and they've got to fill it somehow. And I'm sure they've got some content with... When's Doom coming out? But yeah, you've got to think, if they're going to book out and they're going to come back, they have to have something big, and Fallout would fill that gap.
Yes. Because, a Dishonored 2, as much as I'm looking forward to it, is not going to fill that 90-minute slot that they had last year, which I'm assuming they're going to be going for the same. I mean, does Doom have a release date yet? I don't think it does. I'm just looking on Amazon right now, and it just said item does not yet have a release date. So, I mean, that looks like a ton of fun. And they showed that. I think that was the opener of the Bethesda showcase last year.
I wonder, is there an Elder Scrolls on the horizon?
I don't think so soon after Fallout. You think of the time that it takes to shift one of those out. I think to announce that now would be to, I guess, squash some of Fallout 4's success.
Yeah, I think you're right. They need time to sort of for the dust to settle and for the DLC to sort of thrive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And they also have Battlecry as well, don't they? So Bethesda have Battlecry, that MOBA.
Yeah, and they did well last year with their conference for a first attempt. You know, it was a nice vibe.
Yeah.
It really was. It was great. You know, Fallout Shelter was available straight away.
It was
wasn't
a good game.
Yeah, they had that available straight away. You know, from after that. So for iOS, which was really good. So you know, that's great. So we've got 2 on Sunday now. So we'll have 2 on Sunday, and then we'll have so we've got Ubisoft. No, so we've got EA and Bethesda on Sunday, and then on the Monday we'll have Microsoft, Sony, and Ubisoft. And we don't know when Nintendo
they're so cool, they'll just rock up whenever and blow us all away.
Fingers crossed.
A little trestle table outside E3 with
a new range of amiibos.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, superb. Right, Darren, next piece of news is with you, sir.
Yeah, this one's PC Gamer caught up with Cliff Bleszinski, the guy behind the Gears of War games. And they had a chat with him, and they asked him about the concerns they had, such as, and this is a concern of mine as well, the lack of single-player campaigns and the decline in them being included in games. And basically, Cliffy said that the trend of going away from campaigns is because that's where the money is, and not earning the money, spending the money, just to make that clear. The quote is that he said campaigns cost the most money. He said that they usually cost 75% of the budget, Cliffy B said, and you burn through the campaign in a weekend, that's fair to say, and then the players go to multiplayer. So that's the reason, but it scares me a bit, that, because I'm a campaign guy.
Yeah, but isn't Cliffy B just about to release a multiplayer game?
He is.
What are you trying to say?
No, do you think he's stacked his answer?
You know, if you think about it,
campaign's rubbish.
You've just played Metal Gear Solid. You've just played Fallout. You know, all of those games you've just played are just ginormous single player games, aren't they?
They are. Yeah, I could probably do with a bit of multiplayer. That's probably why I've been sucked into Battlefront, isn't it? Actually,
yeah, that's why I keep going back to Rocket League as well.
Yeah, you need a short and snappy thing, quick fix.
Absolutely. I mean, there's always that. It does always kind of knock around, but I do see that with a little bit. Sorry, I shouldn't be so cynical there, but I do see it as because it's what's it called, Fortitude or something like that, Fortified, I think, which is Cliffy B's game that when he broke away from the Gears of War stuff. That's what he's working on, and that's due out this year, I think. Okay,
he's working on a game called Lawbreakers, isn't he, as well?
Right.
But yeah, you're right. It's probably a stacked answer, isn't it? But it just made me think, because there are these games that have been... I don't really fancy these multiplayer-only games, though Battlefront must be the exception that proves the rule. Like Titanfall, because it was... If that had a campaign, I'd have probably bought that. But because it didn't, I had no interest because it had no campaign, because I'm a sucker for that story. And if that would have had I enjoyed Killzone, I enjoyed... I always forget. It was a launch title on PS3.
Metro. Metro's a game that is a first-person shooter with a great story. There's 2 games there. What else have we got?
You guys have got a great example of Battlefront, like it's in Star Wars Battlefront, and we've just been speaking about Splatoon as well. So, for me, I can completely agree with Cliffy. Like, there's less single players, but if you start getting more dedicated, multiplayer-focused, unique experiences, or at least polished just for that, like Battlefront, like Splatoon, like Rocket League, I think that's where you're going to find a split in the market, in the same way that some people have been put off The Witness because it's a puzzle game. You don't have to always like all the multiplayer games, but I love the fact there are some experiences that are so confident that with their own mechanics, like this can stand alone as a multiplayer. We feel we can attract all sorts of combatant levels, or racers or sportsters. We feel this can stand on its own. I think that's great. And looking at the other flip side, you get things like he talks about efficiency of budget. I guess although Spelunky and what was the one you were playing earlier, Darren?
Multiplayer?
No, the Spelunky-esque Spectrum.
Downwell.
Yeah, Downwell. There seems to be another efficiency in budgets when you get those roguelike generating games. I mean, obviously an awful lot of effort has to go into making sure what they generate is good. but there's obviously an efficiency of content there. But it just seems like there's just different aspects of the whole hobby that you can say that to. Yes, the single players are shrinking, but that's surely going to mean the ones that come out and are good will just be even more revered, rather than this just like thrown together thing that tries to put a storyline in some sort of multiplayer campaign that you don't care about.
Yeah, obviously quality is better than just having loads of sort of shovelware FPSs. That was it, Resistance Fall of Man, that was what I was trying to think of. I even enjoyed that. But it's just, the concern with me is, and this is an extreme example, but it just declines that much that Uncharted 5 is multiplayer only. That sort of thing. And it's all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's just that there's been more and more games where I've personally found that the single player has either diminished a lot in its quality from my point of view, or is not there at all. And I found like Halo 5 for me, I found the story not what I wanted, but the game's so tight and solid and brilliant, and the multiplayer is great. But for me, because I played Halo from Halo 1, I wanted more out of that campaign, and I felt for all the razzle dazzle, the actual content there, the plot left me wanting. And I was thinking it's because they're concentrating more on the multiplayer side. I think that it's quite obvious that they'd like it to sort of evolve into like an e-sport to rival Call of Duty, and Call of Duty did the same. It was very poignant. Call of Duty 2, taking part in that, the rushing of Normandy Beach and stuff at the start of that game, all the way through that I felt the poignancy and the emotion, even though it was a first person shooter. Saying poignancy and emotion now in correlation with a Call of Duty game sounds ridiculous, because they've steadily got more spectacle, a bit like Transformers films, isn't it? It's like style over content.
Yeah.
So they've got more vacuous, more spectacle, but more vacuous. And the multiplayer is the more important thing, and it just worries me that is a trend. And when Cliffy B says that it costs 75% of your budget to fashion and to craft the single player, and I can understand that, because that's where the work goes. You've got to have a storyline, it's all got to work in a certain way. But multiplayer sort of evolves on its own, because the players evolve it, don't they?
Yeah.
So the players do your work. If you've got a good multiplayer game, you put it out there, the players love it. They'll make up their own like games. I remember playing Project Gotham Racing and Cat and Mouse.
Yes.
I was like, what's this Cat and Mouse? And then the guys explained it, and I was like, this is fantastic. So you make your own rules with the game. You work with the systems you're given, and the people, the gamers, will create out of that, and so you get more value. So that's an argument for why multiplayer is so fantastic. But yeah, I can totally understand why the campaign and the fashioning of a campaign costs so much money. And yeah, you can usually do a campaign, 12 hours if it's not an open world game, 12 hours, 15 hours. Whereas a multiplayer can give you like almost infinite amount of playtime for 25% of the budget. It's that kind of saying it. It's just a worry, because as a business, why wouldn't you want to stack your numbers over on the multiplayer side? Because if it takes, it's a winner, isn't it?
But this is where the publishing / indie side comes in, because you're going to get indie developers who much prefer that sort of single player experience, because that is the vision that they have. And fair enough, you might get we just have to look at countless AAA games that have tried to nickel and dime you through microtransactions online or so. There is obviously a focus there to try and recoup some of the cost. But if it comes to the point where you pays your money and it takes your choice, I think I'm probably going to be switching more towards Steam and the smaller indie downloads that you find on Xbox Marketplace to fulfill that single-player experience.
Yeah, the only problem I've got there is that my single-player experience that I've become accustomed to, I want it to be Uncharted or Rise of the Tomb Raider, that sort of single-player experience, or Mass Effect. So you're not going to get that same level of quality from the indies, because they just haven't got the cash.
Yeah, but it's interesting though, because a lot of those games that we're talking about that are multiplayer only, so your Evolve, your Star Wars Battlefront, etc. A lot of those, and Titanfall, a lot of those, if you read any of the comments, if you look at any of the forums, etc., they're all asking for a single player campaign. With Titanfall 2 coming, and Star Wars, they're asking for is a campaign. When we put our show last week, where we were talking about the season pass for Star Wars, there was a lot of comments that came after it saying, "I'm not getting the season pass unless it includes a single player." So I think the want from the gaming base is there. They want a single player experience, but it's whether a publisher or a developer will stick the single player campaign there.
Yeah, I've read so many comments as well about these Titanfalls and Evolveds that say round about this. They're basically saying the single player gives me the background of why I'm bothered in the story, and then I can carry on with the multiplayer forever because I know the premise. Because the single player is sort of, it's got me. I'm invested in the world. And once I've been invested because of what the single-player campaign did to me, I'm happy to play multiplayer loads and loads and loads. And while you were just talking then, it made me realise about Star Wars, why I'm not so bothered, because I've already had my campaign by watching the films, if you like. Because I know where I am on Hoth. I know what my motivations are as the rebels or the Imperials. So that's probably why don't get me wrong, I'd love to just play the whole film in a linear game, even if it was as linear as blooming The Order kind of thing. Well, maybe not that far, but I think that's it.
Steady on.
Sorry,
steady on.
Totally dissing Star Wars there.
Don't get crazy
that
talk.
Crazy. But do you see what I mean? So I've just realised why I'm not so bothered with Star Wars, because I'm so invested in it. I love the films. It's just a joy to be there, and I already know the premise. I know who the goodies are and the baddies, and it's just a joy to play. But games that come out new, like Titanfall, like Evolve, a single player, I think, campaign would help loads in getting people invested in the world that they're giving you. And I've read loads of comments that echo that, and I think that it's very important. I'm sure that Titanfall servers have, if not diminished, are on a severe decline. And I would like to just offer the hypothesis that if there'd have been a single player that was gripping and gave people a passion and investment in the world, in their universe, that perhaps it wouldn't be so quiet now on the servers.
Yeah, absolutely. The first time I jumped into a Titan, because I bought Titanfall because I just got my Xbox, I wanted all of those next-gen titles. The moment I jumped into a Titan, the first thing I thought about was, I would love to play a single-player campaign with this story mechanic. It almost took me to Pacific Rim, where you're just in those big mechs, and I love that movie so much. And it is just like that. The first time you jump in, the first time you eject because it's going to blow up, you do, in your head, was, I don't want to be running around and just getting shot every 5 minutes. I want to be playing a single campaign with this. And I always say one of the best packages is Gears of War 2. Because Gears of War 2 had a great story, apart from the worm, had a great story. And then it also brought Horde in. And then when Nicola and I were playing Horde, I was Marcus, she was Dom. And so it was, you're spot on there, Darren. It was a real continuation of our campaign. We were just continually fighting these two guys against wave upon wave of bad guys.
And you played the campaigns, you're invested in the world. And that's a great example of campaign and multiplayer with no compromise on either. Great multiplayer and great campaign. Great game.
Yes, great game all round.
So there you go.
There you go. James, the next piece of news, sir, is with you.
Interesting story from the other side of the pond, but GameStop, there's too many games. GameStop has been reportedly gone into the publishing business, and they will be publishing the next game from Insomniac Games, the people who brought us Ratchet and Clank. So the next game is going to be Song of the Deep, a 2D side-scrolling underwater adventure, and it'll be published by their version of Game, or Game Station. I find this a curious but interesting twist. So we've basically got the brick-and-mortar stores now moving into the publishing arm, and I can't help but think this is quite clever of GameStop. I keep wanting to say GameSpot, but it's GameStop. Because they can obviously see that eventually the writing will be on the wall for brick and mortar, so they're actually trying to branch out, get a publishing arm, and actually extend their reach to be more than just selling individual games. How about selling a whole game to other retailers? I think this is quite clever.
Yeah, so will this game be available for download as
yes,
well?
Yes, it will be available for digital download on Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and PC, and I think it's going to be the physical exclusive for GameStop itself. Plus, they'll be able to create and stock the physical merchandise associated with it. Although I do think that's probably like their end game, but creating a lot of merchandise for a game that's not out yet might be throwing money away if it doesn't hit, but I guess they've got to plan for the positive side of it all.
Yeah.
Yes, and it does look a great game. I'm a big Insomniac fan, and this does look quite a nice, kind of quaint. It kind of almost reminds me of those side projects that EA have with Unravel, that Ubisoft have, and it kind of reminds me of one of those kind of little passion projects, because it's about a girl who goes looking for her dad in a submarine, I believe is the premise.
I think they said it's inspired by Irish folklore, so I'm not quite sure how many submarines are in folklore, so I guess there's a certain liberty taken with the tale. But yeah, I love the fact that this is another large studio giving a small team a chance to go off and create something quite... it looks quite pretty. I think they said there's only about 15 staffers, and I think it's out quite soon, so it's a nice little reveal at the start of the year.
It is indeed. I mean, because Insomniac also have a mobile side as well. They've actually brought out a couple of iOS games as well. So, it's good to see them trying different avenues. Yeah. But, I agree with you. I mean, GameStop, I'm doing the same as well. It does seem like a bit of a desperate move. It seems like we've got to start putting an investment somewhere. So we're known for games, so let's start publishing. Yeah. Let's get into this publishing. And to get a well-known name like Insomniac and to bring out and to publish one of their games seems like a safe first toe, doesn't it, to see how the waters are.
I think it might be an interesting look for other developer studios, because obviously they're quite new as a publisher, but equally they've got a lot of reach across America, so you think it might be very beneficial for maybe up and coming startups to maybe get in touch, because they'll have that instant breakout into so many stores.
Yeah, because they've got that distribution already. They've nailed that, and that's why they still really are around, I think. I've argued before that my conspiracy idea for the price of downloading games of digital copies is only at the level it is because Microsoft and Sony have to sort of appease the physical stores, because they're the distribution channels for the consoles, and that's why I think that the prices of digital downloads on the consoles are rather unreasonable, and I think it's just basically to appease them, and something will give at the time where you no longer need a console, because you just get it delivered to whatever, your PC or to your smart TV. Or at such time as Microsoft and Sony realise that they could just ship out the consoles themselves, the stores are going to need something else to do, and it does seem a sensible diversification, doesn't it? Because they, like as you both say, they need to do something. They can see that this isn't going to last forever. This is the trouble with technology. It's usually a victim of its own success when it comes to physical, because you can, as time goes, more and more things can be virtualized, digitalized, downloaded and reach the consumer in different ways. So I think it's very sensible, and while they can take advantage of the physical distribution, they can get their feet in, they can dig their heels in, get themselves a name, and then they'll be ready and well poised when the inevitable happens, and they're on the actual games physical games are no longer the thing to do, and they'll be ready to publish games, and they can make money that way. I think it's good if they've got enough money to get in there. You see, I was sort of thinking it'd be a good thing for Game to do here in the UK, but I don't think they've got the sort of cash to do that.
No, I think if you look at the size of America, I guess, and just how much money they can rake in from there compared to Game over here, it's probably a very small number by comparison. Yeah,
absolutely. But I think it's definitely a good idea. It's like in a way, Blockbuster Video should have done it somehow. They should have been Netflix, shouldn't they? They should have seen it and moved themselves into that area before they went bust.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good to see that brick and mortar investing in what they're selling. So rather than just kind of touting other people's wares, they are just kind of, like I say, they're protecting their future. And I'm sure they're looking at things like Kickstarter and the likes, trying to see the next kind of big thing on there as well. Because you could bet if this goes well, that they're going to just kind of jump in straight away. I mean, I don't think they're going to go away for. I mean, I think we've got probably another generation of consoles, of actual kind of physical consoles, and with VR coming and Nintendo NX, there's still some hardware there, but I agree with you, Darren. I think once all that's kind of disappeared, then maybe those online prices will go. But like I say, I went into Game today, and it was full of Toys to Life, and it was full of cards as well for like kind of just redeemable codes. Which was quite interesting to see, walls of redeemable codes for Xbox and PlayStation 4.
Yeah, that stuff at the front that used to be quite a small area is slowly edging closer and closer to the front door, isn't it?
It really is. There was like 2 copies of Star Wars Battlefront, but there was probably 100 codes.
Yeah, the rest was codes and T-shirts.
Yeah, exactly, and headphones. Yeah. So that's really interesting. The next piece of news is with me now. Warner Brothers Entertainment, WB Entertainment, on Sunday, just before I was going to bed, that last check of Twitter before I was going to bed, they announced that on Monday they were going to be announcing a new game. They called it a merging of 2 entertainment giants. So obviously Twitter went crazy. I was thinking Batman, Superman game. I was thinking, this is great, Warner Brothers, we'd get WB Montreal or something like that. So there was a lot, so we had to wait until Monday for this announcement. However, at 9 o'clock on Monday, a couple of people maybe kind of clicked on that publish button a little bit too quick. We had Amazon France and Xbox.com both went live with the title that was.
Is it Animaniacs? Please tell me it's Animaniacs. No. Oh.
No. God, that would be so cool. Oh, imagine that. They're the pigeons. I love those pigeons. Anyway, God, you could have got me onto a complete Animaniacs tangent. So the game was Lego Star Wars Force Awakens. Yes. And I will stick this into the show, because I found out last week with the Turtles one, I can stick YouTube clips into our show notes. I will stick this in because the Lego Star Wars Force Awakens announcement trailer is adorable. It's a shot-by-shot recreation of that original Star Wars trailer, the original Force Awakens trailer, with the one that starts with Finn kind of all puffing and panting as a stormtrooper on Jakku, and it just follows that, but it adds the kind of old style Traveller's Tales slapstick comedy to it, and it is just fantastic. I just sat and watched it a couple of times, grabbed Nicola, I was like, you gotta watch this, and it's just fantastic. So they're making a Lego Star Wars game. The great news is it's coming out on the 28th of June. So we're not long to wait. They're saying it's coming out just after the Blu-ray release of Force Awakens. We're going to get Lego Star Wars Force Awakens.
I can't wait for this. Saw the trailer, loved it.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's brilliant. Really love it. And the thing is, this is the only way, really, apart from the Disney Toys to Life Force Awakens stuff, this is the only game where you're going to be able to play Force Awakens stuff. Because EA have already said that they're not going to bring out any content for Force Awakens into Battlefront. So this is it. I'm buying this. I just wish it wasn't June. It feels so far away.
But it's quite good because it could be later. They could add. I mean, you imagine there could be some DLC. You could get some Rogue One stuff because Rogue One comes out this year. There could be some really interesting thing. I mean, I'm quite surprised that we're getting a Lego Star Wars game because we've got Disney Infinity, because we've got Lego Dimensions. I thought that would keep those two franchises apart. So I was when I saw this, I was like, I wanted a Batman game, but this is just so much better. I didn't know I wanted this game.
There's a slight concern I've got, because do you remember when Lego used to be, here are 3 films put together and here are all the levels that we can put from this? So you had the original trilogy, you had the Indiana Jones, you even had Jurassic Park recently and Lord of the Rings. They all seemed to make one game from 3 films because there was just enough content to push it through there. I'm quite tired of the Lego games purely because I've played so many. I feel I have bashed enough bricks over the last 10, 12 years for any sane person. So I'm having a few years off from the Lego games. But I just worry that you're going to get this one, then a couple of years' time you're going to get another one and another one. And they're just going to use up even more of their charm. Because I absolutely love that trailer where you see BB-8 just like roll through some sandcastles and he does a little thumbs up still and it's like the man eating his...
Yes.
It's all really good humour. But is this the point where they start milking it? Because I thought they were trying to start do this with they have had the Avengers, they've got Guardians of the Galaxy, they're doing it with the superheroes. I just wonder now if they're starting to take the mick.
Yeah. You see, I'm okay because I've avoided Lego games for ages. I think the last one that I played was, I don't know, one of the Star Wars ones.
Blimey.
Ages ago. You know, like the original 3, which I think
that was on the original Xbox. That's how long ago that was.
Yeah, it was ages ago. And I've sort of been like, oh, no, I'll leave it. I've only played demos since, which I've enjoyed, but there's never been a pull before, so I'm okay. And this, for me, this is a jumping in point for me. Like our cumulative brick counts are going to be vastly different. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's like Big Sheep, cumulative brick count is like 10 billion. Dazza is like 1,000. And then you can get from that your eagerness for the next Lego game.
Yes, but I think you're right. If you've taken time off, this is a good jump in. James, if you're still kind of fatigued for that, I've got such a childhood love for all of this stuff that I haven't hit that point yet. Like I say, I jumped in on Sunday to the next game, and I just enjoy the subject matter. I think the only one that I didn't complete the story of, I don't do it as well as Nicola and her brother, who make sure they kind of 1,000 every game. But the one that I didn't kind of even finish the story, I think, was the Lego Hobbit one. So there was the Hobbit one, wasn't there?
Was that the one they did 2 of the 3 for? Because I played that one. That was probably the last one I played, and that was actually quite nice because it had the huge open world. And I'm guessing you're not going to be able to do that with the Star Wars game.
No, because I mean, like the Star Wars games previously, they had like the Mos Eisley Cantina was that kind of thing that kind of kept them together. Like, there was the transition between the different worlds, and with Lego Marvel Avengers with Batman was fantastic. You in the first Batman, you had the Gotham. You had this open world Gotham that was fantastic to just kind of drive around in. I really enjoyed Harry Potter because you had Hogwarts as your kind of hub, didn't you, as well? So I don't know. There's something about these games that just really
they are still absolutely charming, and I think for me they are the number one game I recommend to any, I guess, parents wanting to play games with their kids, because they are so easy to pick up and they appeal to both young and old. As I say, I've done too many. I basically get dragged in for the co-op achievements with Ali nowadays, and that's about it.
What James is, because you've already said you're not as into Star Wars as me and Anthony. What if it was, I'm trying to think of a passion of yours.
Well, you see, it was Jurassic Park.
What if it was Ghostbusters?
Jurassic Park is my favourite film of all time, and I couldn't even muster the energy to load that one up.
Oh, okay. All right, fair enough. We'll leave it there then. That's fair enough.
That's a really good one, actually. There was because they did all 3. They did 3 movies. 3 movies in there.
James, you missed the best one.
I think there could be 3 or 4. I'm not sure, but that was a really good one. That was one that they patched it because they had achievement that was unachievable, and Nicola was having rage quits on a nightly basis because he wanted that 1,000 points. But that was really good. I'm surprised you didn't get that, James, because it's obviously dinosaurs and Lego.
If I come back,
that's what your
that'll
DNA.
Be the first one.
Yes, but have you been tempted by Lego Dimensions? I guess not. So
no, I've been tempted to buy it, just not play it. It's my brother showed me pictures of the tiny Ghostbuster pack with the tiny Ecto-1 and the tiny trap, and they're adorable. But
no, I must admit, I saw Matt's kind of tweets, and I was like, oh, I want that. I really want that. And then I looked at my Disney Infinity, like, no, that's the one I'm playing. So I was just...
I think it saved me a lot of money by not buying it, because then I just don't buy the add-ons.
Yes, indeed. But so what I'll do is, if you haven't seen that trailer already, I'll stick it in the show notes because it really is a must. It's a fantastic announcement trailer.
Cool.
Darren, over to you.
Me. Well, this is a bit of Nintendo news. So Nintendo paired up with DNA, who are experts in the mobile field, the mobile area, and they've announced that their first smartphone app is going to launch in the UK and Ireland in March on both iOS and Android. It's called Mitomo, and it's not a game, but it's actually going to be a communication tool. It's going to encourage you to chat and share photos with friends. It's been revealed before, last year, but it's not been clear when it would launch outside Japan, so now we've got these dates. If you're interested, you can register or pre-register to get this app on February the 17th by creating a Nintendo account. So, I don't know, I'm not going to be pre-registering, as I'm not that interested, but it's their first sort of step into the foray of the mobile scene, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. They're planning to release, or it's reported that they're planning to release about 5 more smartphone apps by the end of March 2017, so within the next 12 months roughly. And the second app that they're going to bring out, according to the Wall Street Journal, is going to feature one of Nintendo's best known characters, but we don't know who that's going to be. But what we do, or have been told, is that it won't be another communication app. But you know, it doesn't mean it won't be another. It doesn't mean that it'll be a game. So yeah, it's just like
interesting.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that exciting, but I think it's a very sensible first stab, because Nintendo, I think, have always been criticised for their online functionality in a lot of their games, and this has been improving greatly, obviously, with things like Splatoon and Mario Kart of recent years. So to get out that social app, first of all, I think is crucial, because it means they can start testing, maybe even testing for the NX, about how they want their infrastructure behind the scenes to go, how they want to get it across to people, and what maybe how people just can feed back as to see how the messaging, the voice chat, things like that will work. So I think this is quite a canny move.
Yeah, so like a Trojan horse, so that they can test the communications that they'll want to overlay over everything that they do going forward anyway.
Yeah, because if I have to start swapping 16-digit alphanumeric codes just to be friends with someone, I think that might kill the service dead straight off.
Yeah. It doesn't kindle the romance that well, does it?
No.
Because you didn't have voice communication with Splatoon, did you? So you couldn't form a team and talk to them.
Every time I played it, I basically had a WhatsApp group ready to go, and then we spoke to each other between rounds.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, because it's like when we were playing. When we were playing, when we were playing Mario Kart, you could only talk, couldn't we? We could only talk after the round, so we couldn't hear all of the expletives coming from the Thomas house. We had to wait until
I saved them. Don't worry.
Yeah, we had to wait till in between. It was just really bizarre. So you're right. You know, if this is Nintendo just kind of kicking their tires, getting used to a network and doing something, then it's a worthwhile app, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great way of looking at it. I hadn't thought of that, James, and once you said it, I was like, yeah, that's genius. Really good.
Superb. James, next piece with you.
Yeah, so my final news story of the day is one that tickled the interest, and it's of Ant Simulator. Now, I don't expect many people to have heard of, probably before this week, Ant Simulator, but it was a game that sprung up from a game jam a while ago, famous one called Ludum Dare, and it started spawning. It had a Kickstarter, and it really gathered interest. And the whole game was, well, you're an ant. You lived inside a colony, and you had to try and, keep it functioning, go out and find food sources, lay trails to let other ants see it. It was effectively SimCity, I guess, for ants.
What?
But it's hit the headlines this week because it's come a bit unstuck. The first salvo of shots were fired earlier in the week when the initial creator, who did the game jam in the beginning, basically said that his partners, his business partners, had spent most of the backing money on liquor, restaurants, and even strippers. So he said he'd resigned from the company, he severed ties, and he was going to try and seek refunds for the small number of pre-orders that they had. So this was sort of came out of the blue, and initially there was just a great interest in it, I think just because of how honest or how open this admittance of, we frittered away your cash, I'm really sorry, there's nothing left to make the game. So that's where it was when I originally put this on the show notes.
Yeah.
Except today, it seems that the other business partners, unsurprisingly, have wanted to have their say. And they're saying that actually this is just the guy's excuse. Like, the original creator has just thrown effectively a hissy fit, tried to shut out the business partners who were trying to create a game and sort of like move it in different directions and actually run a business. And he's effectively just cancelled it and run off to try and start again. So there's a bit of confusion. They've basically said, I don't know why he's painting this picture, but the reality is that anything that was spent in a bar or restaurant was very reasonable in nature when you look at the business.
Wow.
So they're not denying they spent it. They're just saying that that's not where all the money went.
That's so interesting.
And to the point... Yeah, they've even said, like, look, we've registered our taxes and bills with the IRS, so there's nothing going on wrong here. So yeah, it seems like it's just going into a bit of a spat, but it's interesting to see that our Kickstarter has effectively exploded like this, because I think there's always been concerns that not everyone will reach its final destination.
Yes.
But to blow up in such a public manner.
Yeah, because there's a lot of talk about you get funded, but a lot of people that get funded because of a great idea might not have that business acumen. They don't know how to sort of plan and budget and what have you. And I'd read this story before that update. I hadn't read the update, and it paints such a different picture here into the both sides, because pre-update it was like the guy said, basically, I'm doing all the coding, I'm partnered with two other guys, they don't do any coding. It sounded like he said they don't do anything, but what they have done is just gone out and sort of drank it all and had strippers and spent all the money, and it's all their fault, and I'm going to help you all, and I'm going to do my best to give you all the money. And it sort of was I was really sympathetic to the guy. And then you give me the other half of the story, the other side of the coin, and I mean, who knows which side? It's probably a little bit of both, but it's obviously to come out and say that and say, look, you can look at we're transparent, you can look at all our spending, there you go. It makes me think there's some credibility to what they've said. So it's interesting, isn't it? He hit first.
Yeah.
I was very sympathetic as a reader of the plight, and I just thought, oh, they're the baddies, they're the bad guys, and then you just told me that information, and it's like, two sides to the story, and it probably isn't just all poor guy.
Because they've got some full information, I think, through the story that I read on Rock, Paper, Shotgun, and there's a link through to like the entire tale from their side, and they were even talking about they'd got contractors in, they had talks with Sony about making a deal, so they were obviously more the business side of things. And without knowing the full details, it almost seems like there was a rift between the business and the creative at some point in time. Yeah. But it's such a shame that it's almost come to such public blows.
Yeah, and I bet the guy's kicking himself, because you shouldn't really start shouting on the internet unless your sort of side of the case is watertight. And it sounds like maybe he was in such a hissy fit that he was blinded by his anger and just thought, we need to vent on the internet, which obviously is always wise to vent on the internet when you're really angry. And it's like, well, maybe he didn't check that he had all the facts, or that the right was on his side, because these other guys have just they've just knocked it right back at him, haven't they?
Yeah.
But I suppose we'll see if the backers get refunded.
Yeah, because I don't think there's any legal obligation, because I think with Kickstarter, again, you're almost effectively donating it to a cause, and if you get something at the end of it, then, well, there you go.
And if you don't, it's sort of like, well, yeah, sometimes you lose. That's life, yeah. Cool. The next thing I've got is, this is a quick one. We're going to get one of those announcements. Well, we've had an announcement of an announcement, which I always like. So
this is the third announcement of an announcement in the newsreel, isn't this week? We had one for Insomniac's game. We had one for Lego Star Wars.
Yeah. But yeah. Yeah. I love these, though. They're great, aren't they? It keeps the news ticking along. The podcast probably be an hour shorter if it wasn't for announcements of announcements. So this one's from Square Enix, and they've announced that they're going to announce the release date for Final Fantasy 15 on March the 30th. And it's going to take place in an event that they're calling a Final Fantasy Uncovered event. So yeah, there you go.
The only way this is good is if they say that Final Fantasy 15 is released on March 31st. It's just like if they say you get it tomorrow, part 1 is available now, and I think, and that's what you expect. For when I see something like this, when I see an announcement of an announcement, and they're putting some big people behind it again, they've got the kind of Twitch YouTubers and podcasters alike kind of there in LA for this announcement of the announcement. You do want them to just say it's going to be out tomorrow, or it's going to be out do a Fallout. But what do you think? Do you think it's going to be end of the year, or are we ever going to see this? Are they going to tell us that it's not coming?
The fact is, they've actually announced there will be a release date. If it wasn't this year, and if it wasn't actually, I think, before September, I think something's gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Because if they're going to announce that it's going to come out in November, it's like, well, you could have just waited to E3, because that's just lost in the mire at that point.
Yeah.
Yes. I think what we'll probably do is we'll probably get a full announcement date, and then we'll probably get another demo, because they had a demo before, didn't they? That was tied to a game that looked fantastic, looked really interesting, and people were just buying that demo on eBay. You could just buy that demo on its own. So maybe we'll get a proper kind of open demo for everybody to play.
Yeah, they've got some. Go on, James.
No, I was going to go off on a tangent.
Oh, so was I. All I was going to say, very briefly, was that they've got some work to do, as far as I'm concerned, because I've been a big fan of Final Fantasy since Final Fantasy 7, which got me back into gaming after having a little break away. Absolutely love 7, played them all, but I must say 13 put me off. It sort of made me get a bit sick of it, so I'm hoping that they change direction and it's not going to be more sort of linear as that. So yeah, it's sort of, it just got me a bit like, why did I? It started making me question why I played these games, and they used to be a benchmark, these games. So it's, I'm hoping that this is actually going to be a fun game and not just a sort of walk through a path of, I don't know. It's just, I found the last one a little bit of a chore to play.
I wonder if it comes back to what Cliffy B was saying earlier as well, just like the amount of money it costs to make the single player experience. You could see almost why that when upgrading all their engine and bits and pieces, that Final Fantasy adventure, the very linear one you speak of, was so, because they were trying to make it as pretty as possible, but didn't really have the ability to stretch it
it's
out.
like a triangle. It's not one of those diagrams, isn't it? It's basically, the prettier it gets, the more linear it has to be, because you can't have millions of staff on everything, unless maybe Ubisoft, or massive places like that where you've got thousands of people working on a game. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right there. What was your tangent, James?
Mine was just going to be that it's at least, I guess, as much as I mocked the release date, the other ones were like the Lego ones happening the next day, the Insomniac one happened the next day. I just don't understand why they've done this. I guess it's like they maybe thought that it's a slow news week, so they might be able to grab some headlines, which I guess they've achieved.
Yeah, but where's the need for it? It's like, how did this become a thing that's quite popular now?
I know, because it's like it's almost 8 weeks away.
Yeah,
it's
nonsense.
Yeah,
it's just exasperation in my voice more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting because Apple do it with their keynotes. They always kind of send out. We've got one now where we've got one on March 15th. There's a keynote, but that's just because obviously you need to ready yourself. You need to be there, but to have as you said, James, to have it so far away, it's just a bit of an interesting one. Why this couldn't be in February, or why it couldn't be because March 30th is quite a way away.
Yeah, maybe that's the amount. They feel that the game is sufficiently massive and a big thing to deserve this kind of protracted announcement, maybe. And it's weird because for me, a few years ago, like when 12 came out, or pick a number basically, 10 or 11, 12, not 11, that was online, wasn't it?
Yes.
I would have been mad for it. I'd been oh wow, yeah, it's coming, getting all excited. But now it just straight over my head. It's strange. So, yeah, I think it's a bad move. If other people feel the same sort of apathy as I do towards it, I'm sure they don't. But I don't know. Maybe there are people that feel like me because I felt let down by the last game. I think they've got a lot to do when they actually release the announcement to ignite interest. Because
so if they do announce a demo with this announcement, will you kind of jump in? Will you kind of have a kick the tires, literally? Because I think you got dudes in a car. So will you kick the tires?
I will do.
And kind of see what
and
it's
I'll be praying that it's good. And I'll be really, really hoping, because I feel loyal to Final Fantasy, and I'd hate to go off it. So yeah, I'm really hoping it's going to be good. I mean, there was a Square Enix tech demo that they showed a few E3s ago, I think, using their Frostbite engine. Is theirs the Frostbite engine? Using their latest engine, anyway. I'm not sure if theirs is the Frostbite engine. And anyway, it was amazing, and I thought that's the Final Fantasy game that I want to play. This doesn't look like it so far. The bits that I've seen of them going around in the fields and exploring the caves, because that footage is kind of old now, it sort of doesn't even look good to me anymore. And part of the thing about Final Fantasy games was like that was raising the bar of graphics for games. They were always the ones that you'd get out, if you got a console or something. If you wanted to impress somebody, you could roll out a Final Fantasy game, and you'd have to fight off the arguments that no, you're not playing it, you're just watching cutscenes, and like in the real time battle, the attack takes 20 minutes to play out as Sephiroth fires supernova at you or whatever. But it used to be like something that was really sort of jaw dropping, and it's like if they're losing the gameplay, if the stories are not holding up like they used to. But now the graphics are taking a dip as well. I'm kind of thinking, Daz, why am I still invested? But we'll see. So I'm hoping that when they do announce it and there's a demo, I'm hoping that it's going to be good, because I'm hoping that they're learning lessons. But the thing is, the Square Enix that we've got now are not the Square that made Final Fantasy VII. It's it's all different people. It's gone through, like, it was acquired. It was just Square with Final Fantasy VII, for instance. It wasn't Square Enix then. And it feels that they've kind of slowly lost their way, and I'm praying that they're going to find their way. And more importantly than Final Fantasy 15, I hope they find their way, because I want the remake of Final Fantasy 7 to be good. And I can appreciate, with, say, what Cliffy B said as well, it sort of adds weight to the sensibility of making that episodic, doesn't it? But I'm hoping that they don't screw that up too. So, there we go. I've got it off my chest now. I'm happy. So the next thing I've got, and the final thing to talk about in the main news, is the cautionary tale of Take-Two's tattoos, which I quite like the title of that. So
trips off the tongue.
Take-Two's tattoos. So Take-Two are being sued because of the tattoos on some of their players in their game NBA 2K16. Can you believe it? They're being sued for $1,144,000 because of their depiction of the tattoos on the players in the game. Apparently, this was reported from the Hollywood Reporter. A place called Solid Oak Sketches owns the copyright for 8 designs that are on the bodies of various basketball players that are in the game. And I don't know my basketball that well, but you've got a tattoo of a child who's on LeBron James's left forearm, and a crown of butterflies on Kobe Bryant's right bicep. That's 2 examples. And basically, they've got the copyrights to most of these tattoos. They got them last year. They contacted the game publisher. They've locked horns. Nothing's come out of it. So, yeah, they're suing them.
I find this... Well, there's 2 parts I find crazy about this. It's like, yeah, okay, obviously, you have got your intellectual property there without your knowledge. You want to try and get some money for it or so, but I can't believe some of the money that changes hands, or that the lawyers didn't see this coming. Because a couple of years ago, I'm a 49ers fan, and our quarterback Colin Kaepernick a couple of years ago actually got I think it was for NFL it was for the Madden game. He got the copyright waivers from his own tattoo artist so he could have his tats in the game. It was like he thought it was such a part of his identity, he went out of his way to make sure that he could do so.
Wow.
And for none of the lawyers, I think, to pick some of this up is... So someone's going to get stern talking to somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's a ridiculous claim. When it gets to this, it's like, it surely isn't hurting someone to the tune of $1 million that these tattoos are shown in a game. They're just chancing their arm, aren't they? Trying to get some money, which is sort of, it's just like, give it a rest. But then, why not? I suppose it's in for a penny, in for a pound, isn't it?
It just shows how good this generation is, because you can make out those tattoos now, where previous generations they would just be blurs, where now you can actually kind of make it out.
Those tattoos back on the Stormtroopers, back on your Atari game.
And there you go, if anyone ever asks you, they say, right, just give me one thing that the older generation of consoles was good for. You can say, well, copyright claims, because you couldn't tell what the heck anything was
on tattoos. Yes. Anyway, but you're right. It's surprised someone didn't pick this up, because when those guys are being scanned in, or when they're being mocapped or whatever, they're taking all of their tattoos when they're doing the scanning. So I'm surprised that wasn't. There wasn't a lawyer there with a waiver for everybody to sign. That we're going to for likeness rights for every single.
I never even knew this was a thing. But it's not my job to know this is a thing. And, I mean, it shocks me. I can't believe that you can sue for a depiction of a tattoo on a player because somebody owns the rights to the image. Yeah. It seems really just amazing to me.
That's just bizarre, isn't it? That's some kind of hoity-toity tattoo parlour in LA kind of going, we want a bit of that action.
But you're right, Take-Two be paying their lawyers for a reason, and this is the kind of thing that needs to be picked up on, isn't it?
Yes.
So there you are.
There you go. And so from tattoos of the next generation, we now head over to our VR news desk for the latest in VR tech.
VR desk.
Yeah, here we are at the VR desk.
I love the fact that you get up and walk over to the VR desk.
I like it over at this VR desk. It's very nice. It's
You've not seen it before, have you, James?
No, it's really nice over here.
It's fancy.
It is fancy. It's sort of, as I've said before, I think it's titanium, but it's sort of like slightly transparent. It's got an opacity of about 70%, so you can sort of see through. It's like glass. Maybe it's graphene.
Graphene. It's not just the desk. It's the leather smoking jackets that you've handed out are a bit weird to sit around the desk.
But we go whole hog.
I know, you have to excuse it. It's because they're virtual.
You'll notice mine has patches.
But believe me, it's just for my enjoyment only. So yeah, here we are. We're at the VR desk. And the first piece of news we've got is there's rumours about Apple creating some VR.
I'm buying it.
On the sly. You were buying it. You were buying it last year.
It could be 2 toilet rolls just taped together with a bit of string and just an Apple logo slapped on the side, and Anthony would buy it.
He would buy it. Cheap at £500. But yeah, I mean, I think we've sort of talked about this in the past, that they've got to be working on something. They've got to be working on something because sort of everybody is. They're massive. They've got the resource. They dropped, didn't they, to the second most profitable company, Anthony, didn't they, the other day? Google overtook them.
Yeah, Alphabet overtook them, didn't they? So
Yeah. A sad day. I bet that was a sad day in the Chesson house.
Yeah, exactly. I put my Apple T-shirt on and I sat sadly sitting in the movie room. But, it was probably alphabetical, and that's why Alphabet were before Apple.
Oh, right.
Which is probably why they named that company that as well.
Yeah, maybe. It's got quite a good name. Maybe that's true.
Yeah, but I thought this was really interesting because this came out of a call, didn't it? It came out of a investors call where someone was asking Tim Cook, the Apple CEO, what he thought of virtual reality and did he think it was niche? Yeah. And he just says, I think it can be. It's really cool. I think this was the quote. I think it's really cool and it has some interesting applications. So obviously that kind of pricked up a lot of the ears when Tim Cook says it could be really cool and it's got interesting applications. You start thinking, Apple VR.
Yeah, and according to a report in the Financial Times, they've already poached some experts that were working on HoloLens as well. So that's interesting. And last week, the company brought on board a top virtual reality researcher and former director of Virginia Tech's Centre for Human-Computer Interaction. So they can't be gathering these talented people for nothing, can they?
No. And they also acquired Flybe Media, which is a startup company that was in Cupertino. That was, I think, they worked for Google, and their application was to let smartphones see the world around them. So they also got. So there is. You're right. When you start kind of counting up all these people that they're buying, they have a good kind of 100+ team at the moment looking at VR.
Yeah, I think from my experience of Apple, I think they're not in a rush to get VR out. I think they'll sit back. They'll let these guys all come out with Oculus, Vive, PSVR. They'll see what it looks like. They'll look at the climate, and then they'll probably come in with something amazing. Because they sort of did that similarly, I think, with the iPhone. There was all those sort of dumb phones that we used to have. And they just sat back, they had the iPod and things, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got this phone that was just, it transcended anything that we'd ever had before, didn't it? It was the phone done right. It was the phone that you needed, and you didn't even realise that touch screen would become such a part of our lives. So they refined and made like the mobile phone into something that was so much more than a phone. And I'm hoping that they've got the cash. There's no need to rush, and I think, and I'm hoping that they'll wait, and they're maybe they're going to bring something jaw-dropping out when the time's right for them. Which, let's think about this. Give it. So everything drops this year. Let it settle down. So maybe 2018, they come out with something amazing at a decent price. An Apple decent price.
If they were going to make any move, then you would expect to see this at the WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference. What normally happens in October. So when Apple have that developers conference, because that's where they're talking about kind of developing. So if they were, it might be a little bit. Might be a little bit too quick to think it would be this year, but maybe kind of 2017 developers conference. That's when they say this is the tool set. This is the tool set we've created.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see where their focus lies as well, because obviously they'll be able to open it up to the app platform, and I guess I wonder whether they're going to create their own bespoke piece of hardware so they can mainly push that towards the entertainment sector, as they did sort of the watch, so it could tie in with other apps, or you can watch movies on your headset or bits and pieces, or whether they might try and double down and do it so that you can use your phone with it, a la the Gear VR. I mean, my guess is they'll probably make their own piece of hardware because they can do far more with it, but definitely using the screen tech they've got with their phones already.
Yeah, maybe and this is just speculation, obviously, but a bit like the NX having two components. So you could have the main device that you use at home, your main HMD head-mounted device. Okay, and that's your Apple VR. But then you can carry on with the experience outside with your phone as well. So your phone could even slot into the HMD, like you say, maybe not in the way that you'd use it with Gear VR. But maybe it just works with it inside somehow, or maybe not at all. But then you can carry on with the experience at a lesser degree, a bit like you would with your Vita, outside.
I just wonder if that's the sort of thing they're trying to do with their phones, because are there many that work like that with the watch at all?
That's your department, Anthony.
You can if I have my camera activated on my phone, or if I have my phone just anywhere, I can activate the camera from my watch, and I can see through that camera, and I can then take photos, and I can do things like that. So I'm getting that. You also get a trade-off of apps as well. That like my podcast app, I can then just I don't have to reach into my pocket to get my phone out. I can just control that with my watch.
Cool. Well, we'll see. I don't think we'll hear anything for quite a while, but I'm sure they're working on something. As we speak.
But maybe that's their new passion project, because Apple TV was their passion project for a while, and they've got that to a point. There was rumours that we would get an Apple screen, we would actually get an Apple TV, but that looks like it's kind of gone quiet, and with Apple TV kind of being the device instead. So maybe this is their next passion project, and also they've got that as a platform that they could also couple with, and they could also connect to in your living room.
Yeah.
But I look forward to sitting on the train, controlling the VR, wearing the VR, controlling it with my watch, and having people laughing at me but not knowing.
Yeah, because you'll be oblivious in your VR paradise. You won't even care.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
it won't matter. It won't matter. I thought about this sort of yesterday or the day before. I was watching something, and it was sort of like had a VR-y theme, and I thought about a tagline for selling VR, and you're almost selling a cure for loneliness.
PlayStation VR, so you don't have to be lonely anymore.
Yeah, and I was thinking about all these lonely people in the world. This thing was sort of like where there's avatars in VR that you can talk to. They're just like humans. And I thought, yeah, you could sell this if there was some software like that, or it could just connect all the lonely people, all the lonely people. And yeah, you're selling a cure for loneliness. And I thought, wow, if you tagged it like that and marketed it, my goodness me, there could be a big market for that. But anyway, yes. I digress. The next item on my VR list is Oculus. If you're interested in getting it, there is a program on the Oculus site. If you go to the Oculus.com website, there is a tool that basically scans your PC and tells you if it's Rift ready or not. You can download it. It's only a few meg. Run it. It'll tell you where you're lacking, or if your rig's ready to run Oculus, and it'll even offer you a link to go and buy a Rift ready PC as well.
I'm running this right now. I thought I'd see how it fares. It's
excellent!
It's checking all of them.
All of mine failed.
So the only one I've got is the operating system. Everything else has failed.
Oh man! Oh, okay. I expected it with mine because it's ancient. But I was thinking yours is not a bad system.
No, I've got a 770 GeForce as my graphics card. I can remember, I was saying to my friend Manny the other day, I can remember when that was almost the cutting edge. I was so happy with that. I was running Battlefield 4 on the highest settings, and I was overjoyed. And it just slips by far too quickly.
How long have you had it? Did you say?
Probably about 2 years, 2.5 years.
Crikey, that lifespan is less than I expected.
Yeah.
I must say.
So would it be just a case of switching out that graphics card, or would you have to put? Is there other stuff, other factors that you would need to?
I'd need a new graphics card. I'd need more memory. It says I need a better processor, and I don't have the USB ports.
Right, so it's kind of looking at you going, you might as well get a new PC, James.
It should just highlight the order PC in a bigger button than the order Oculus Rift. But
yeah. So it's an interesting thing you can find out, but at least it sort of helps you, doesn't it? It tells you what you need.
It's got a check again button. It's got a check again just in case I thought it was wrong.
You're hitting your head. You're hitting your head going, that can't be right.
This time it must be right.
And he rechecks, it says everything's right, what you're talking about. So yeah, that's a handy little thing.
Superb. We can stick that in the show notes.
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the next thing is the South Bank Centre in London, together with its 4 resident orchestras, which I didn't know it had 4. It's got the London Philharmonic, Philharmonia, the London Sinfonietta, and the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment. They're the 4 orchestras that reside.
Wow, those other 3 must feel they've got the right bums rush, because no one's heard of those.
Yeah, I know. But the Age of Enlightenment one, wow, that's a cool name, isn't it? Well, they've recently announced a classical music season for 2016/17, and they're going to do a big VR thing. They're going to do a big VR sort of experience, is a better word than thing. They're going to do a big VR experience tied in with this. So you're going to be able to go into the middle of the Philharmonia Orchestra using the Samsung Gear VR, and get immersed in the whole experience of them playing the closing minutes of a symphony.
Cool.
You'll also be able to go behind the scenes and look at footage from around the festival hall that you wouldn't usually be able to see, and you'll be able to see it all in 360. So it's pretty cool. It's a nice application of using VR for something, a little bit more cultural, perhaps, than the usual things we hear. But it's going to be used in all sorts of manners for this sort of thing, for getting immersed and involved in 360 video. And I just thought it sounded really cool. And there's a little video on here as well. I think we'll maybe add this to the links, because it just talks about VR enhancing culture by being used in this manner, and it's quite interesting. So it's a different way of using it apart from games, but I just think it's
yeah, no, it's nice to see different abilities being used them, because you can imagine them being all sorts of in museums and exhibits to give more life to what they're trying to get over.
Yeah, I can't wait for Rightmove when it becomes VR compatible, because I can just wander around houses and look at them all the time. Can't wait for that. The next item is about NASA and Fusion's Mars 2030 experience. This was something that was only available on Oculus, and this was an experience that used actual footage from the rover on Mars to create an experience where you can explore Mars, but you'll know that it's the real Mars that you're looking round. Well, it is the real Mars that you're going around virtually. So that's just really cool in itself.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Now this is the type of stuff that I'm looking forward to for the experience with VR. This would be like living The Martian, the Martian movie with Matt Damon. It'll be like being in a live action Martian movie.
Yeah, I mean, for me, VR this is what it's about for me. It's going to be these experiences. I'm that sold on it. Yeah. I'm not even bothered about the games. I just want to look at Mars, look at this place, look at that place, and have my surroundings changed at the flick of a switch. Walk around historical monuments and things like that. That's really the draw for me. Anything else is a bonus, but if it does this right, I'm sold. And that's why I'm interested in Vive, because of the walking about bit. So yeah, it was an Oculus exclusive, but it's been revealed that they're actually bringing it out on Gear VR, so the Samsung thing. So that's good, because it reaches the lower price point as well. But it's also going to come out on PSVR and HTC Vive as well.
Oh wow, that's fantastic! So this is a true cross-platform VR title, then.
Yeah, and I think most of them are at the moment. But it was interesting that this one was actually just for Rift, and it's nice. I think they're all playing nice at the moment, because they've said they're all sort of working hand in hand to better the experience and to get the buy-in. I think once they get buy-in, as long as that happens, once that it's become more of a necessity that people are really wanting. Then you might find that the channels spread a bit more. You start getting exclusives on one or the other. That's sort of my theory, anyway.
Absolutely, and it's really good. It's really refreshing that we're now talking about experiences. We're talking about games, because before, a lot of the news that we've reported in this section is about the hardware. So now we're actually talking about applications, and it's quite nice because it's coming. You can feel that the VR kind of revolution is coming, because we're now getting these kind of, you can see this game, you can see this game, and because one of my issues with VR at the moment, apart from obviously we reported last week, we've got some PlayStation VR titles, but it's real kind of hard titles that we haven't seen yet. James was talking about the Keep Talking No One Dies or Everyone Explodes or whatever it's called. I will never get that game title right. There's games like that, but then we're actually seeing kind of more and more of these titles, and this is kind of what gets me excited.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me. It's what's got me invested. It's the experiences. As I say, yeah, I'm just that's what I'm stoked for, and I can't wait for it. Yeah, and more VR news. HP have announced their own VR certified PC. So we're getting more and more of these. When I've been looking around PCs, you're getting more of the retailers having VR certified or VR ready PCs. And that's the PC that I'm going to be looking to get. I think really what you could say with a VR certified or VR ready PC is that it's even pretty much it's the top end gamer PC. It's because it's got to tick so many boxes.
Yeah, it'll be a beast by that point.
Yeah, it's got to be a beast. So yeah, they're called Envy from HP. They're an equivalent to Dell's Alienware brand, so it's that sort of top end of the scale. And they're all customizable and stuff. So they're really good. But the interesting thing is they're actually being labelled and identified as virtual reality certified, which is a fairly new thing that I haven't seen. There used to be, say, a badge saying just HTC Vive certified, but now it's changed and it's just VR certified, which I think is an interesting change and an interesting distinction. So the specs of this particular model, let's go for the $2,000 one. You get an i7 with a water cooling CPU, GeForce GTX 980 Ti 6GB graphics card, and that's quite expensive on its own. That's probably about £600 there.
Yeah, these look a beast. I've just clicked on that link.
Yeah.
These look a beast.
24 gig of RAM, 2 terabyte hard drive, so it's a bit small, I suppose. Optical drive, who cares about that? That's getting a bit archaic, isn't it, really? Wireless networking, power supply, 500 watts. Windows 10, $2,000. That sounds alright to me. The trouble is, we'd have to pay £2,000, and that's not alright.
Yeah, then you've got to buy the Vive on top of that as well.
Yeah, which I think might be $699. But we'll see. We'll find the answer to that out on February the 29th.
Yes, we're now in the month.
We're in the
month.
month.
Vive gets announced. We're in that month.
Can't wait.
It's getting close.
Yeah, I just need to know the time in GMT when that pre-order thing opens.
How much extra to add on to the mortgage?
Oh, James. It's my 40th birthday present, man. I think if ever there's a time for reckless spending of money, it's maybe for that.
I guess better that than a motorbike.
Yeah, well, you'd rather have that than a motorbike.
I think it's probably safer.
Well, yeah, you're right. Yeah. The old midlife crisis these days, I don't need a Ferrari, I just have a VR. And then I can go in as many fast cars as I want in VR. The last thing I've got is VR's getting more and more widespread, and if you want to get more involved, there's courses starting to appear. For instance, at the Pearson College in London, they're doing a VR course called 360 VR from shoot to headset, and what it seems to be is basically showing you how to do a 360 video, prepare the footage, and then prepare that footage and present it so that it can be used with one of the new headsets that we're going to get. So Oculus, Vive, or PSVR. It's a 1 week intensive course, and if you undertake this course, you will understand the core principles of VR and 360 environments. You get a basic understanding of capturing 360 video, which is quite interesting. You get to understand the principles of processing and stitching that video together, and just how to then master all the video and deliver it to the different VR headsets that are available. I just thought that's really cool. If I was near London, I'd be tempted to give that a whirl. It's £870 for a 1 week course, which for a course isn't that bad.
Yeah, that's really cool. And we'll stick a link as well in our show notes to that, because that's a really interesting college course.
Yeah, and I expect there's going to be more and more of these that become available.
Yes.
As VR sort of takes off. We're in the early days at the moment. And should it take off, I think we're gonna see more of this sort of thing. Yeah,
indeed, that's really interesting. And of course, you've got GDC happening at the start of March. It is, isn't it? And they, as we reported last week, they have a lot of talks and a lot of workshops and keynotes all about kind of working with VR. So it's interesting to see how the industry is really getting behind it as well, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
There'll be some momentum there as well with all the with the big two announced and ready to go at that point in time. They'll be slightly more tangible by that point.
Yes, will PlayStation see that as a point where they should maybe announce
theirs? Yes, or will we just get
an
announcement of the announcement?
Yes.
Yeah, they'll announce there that they'll announce at E3.
At E3, yeah, indeed. Awesome. And with that, that's about it for this another epic podcast. I think it's you, James. I think it's...
Sorry.
It brings out the chat in us.
So this is fantastic. Don't forget you can keep up with us, and we're at gamersoflostpark.com. Also on the website this week, Darren has posted an article, really interesting article. It has a poll at the end, which is very interesting, and we're asking, what is more important to you, playing games or completing games? So interesting article. Take part in the poll. It's a very cool piece. Don't forget you can also find us. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, where we're at Lost Spark Pod. We're also on YouTube and the PlayStation 4 community, which is Gamers of Lost Spark. Darren, where can we find you online?
You can find me online as Wythamator on PS4, Xbox One and Twitch, Dazagamer on YouTube, and at DazWhittam on Twitter.
James, where can people catch up with you?
You can find me as Big Sheep on Twitter, Xbox Live, PlayStation Network and Nintendo.
Fantastic. From me, I am Chessman on Xbox Live. I'm PS-Chessman on the PlayStation Network and Chessman UK on Twitter. Don't forget, if you have any feedback, please send it to our email address. The email address is feedback@gamersoflostspark.com. Also, if you're feeling generous, please leave us a review on iTunes. It helps the pod get noticed. So that's about it. Big thank you to James for pulling up that third chair again this week.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much, sir. You're welcome, thank you. And Darren, thank you very much, sir. We'll catch everyone next week.
Yeah, thanks, guys. No coughing next week. I'll be better. Bye.
Cheers.
Catch you later. Bye.